That's pretty good. All right. I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight on this Tuesday, March 10th, 2015, for our regular board meeting. We do have a quorum present. We have Trustee Schwartle, Vice Chair Graves, Trustee Clayton, and myself, Chairman Benyon. We also are pleased to have our Superintendent, Dr. Gwen Carroll Holmes, here with us, and our Board Clerk, Ms. Lori Kaufman. We also have our Student Board Representative, Asia Pettingale. I'm grateful for everybody being here tonight and for the large audience that we have, a group of presenters. So if you would, please stand with me and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We'll go ahead and get started with any additions, corrections, modifications, or substitutions to the current agenda. Ms. Kaufman.
I have none.
Makes that easy. Thank you very much. And we'll keep rolling with the accolade, please.
We have one tonight. This letter is addressed to Mr. Jervich, but we thought we would let the entire district know. Says, Dear Mr. Jervich, on behalf of our daughter, a sophomore enrolled at Wood River High School, I would like to thank you and your math department staff for establishing her newfound confidence and love for mathematics. Mathematics has been an ongoing challenge for our daughter since her primary, middle, and freshman years while attending Blaine County School District. Conventional institutional methods were failing to reach and engage our daughter's learning styles and/or needs. Rushed curriculums, overwhelming amounts of homework, the inability to review and learn had devastating effects on her grasp and perception of math. During her freshman year, she enrolled in the Carnegie Algebra program. This program allowed her to decelerate and spend the necessary time needed to engage, learn, and acquire the skills, confidence, and passion necessary to succeed. As parents, we are not driven by grades. It is unfortunate that our system puts so much emphasis on this antiquated method of assessment. But on the other hand, I will say that our daughter received her very first coveted A in math last semester, for which we are proud. More importantly, our daughter is proud of her accomplishment, and she has experienced a new level of growth and personal achievement where she once struggled. This is an example of teaching and learning. According to staff, our daughter and many of her peers enrolled in the Carnegie program are better prepared for Common Core assessments as opposed to many students enrolled in mainstream math classroom environments. Once again, we would like to extend our thanks to the Wood River High School administration and teaching staff, the math department, for implementing the Carnegie Algebra program. In simple terms, a life-changing experience for our daughter and her peers that have been given this academic opportunity. Sincerely, Steve Guthrie.
Right. Thank you for that, and we appreciate the diversity of program that we offer and the ability that we have to help students where they need it. So thank you very much for that. So we will now move forward with our many guests that we have here tonight. And I believe I'll turn the time over to Mr. Durchie for the presentation, or...
Mr. Dirk.
Actually, I'll turn it over to the students.
There we go.
Sophomores and the first graders.
I'd like to thank them for making the drive up from Cary tonight. Mr. Durchie, can you get the microphones for them so they can be heard on the webcast at home?
You guys want to grab the mic and just pass the mic along? Another one you can share. You want to have two over here and two over there? Sophomores. And now we can start presenting. And you can also talk to the board, and the camera is right there. That's just to put you on it.
My name is Odal. Yeah. Okay. Okay. My name is Odalis, and this is a presentation that we worked on with the first graders, and it's called Defeating Mr. Germ. And my name is Daddy Mitchell. My name is Liliana Cruz. My name is Kelly Howard. My name is Gabe. My name is Stockton. My name is Sebastian. This is the research we did before we started the experiment.
So what is a germ? The dictionary definition of a germ is a microorganism, especially one that causes disease.
So the Great Body Shop is what the first graders read that is about Mr. Cooldude and about how to get sick and what he learns to prevent germs. A junior was chosen to act as a germ and he taught the kids where germs might be.
Using hand sanitizer, washing your hands, and covering up your mouth when you're coughing are some of the ways to preventing getting sick.
The school nurse, Linda Lubeck, came and she talked to the first graders. She also showed them a movie called Germy the Germ, and Sebastian will tell us what he learned from that.
I drew this picture of germs that can be on my hands. I learned that I need to wash my hands to keep them clean. Okay, so this is the experiment we did with the first graders. These are a few of the material we needed to do the experiment.
Agar is a gelatinous-like substance that is used as a thickener in foods.
So to make the agar, we had to break the recipe down to 1/4 of the original recipe.
So this is the math we did. We just crossed multiplied and solved. Then we mixed the agar and water and we let it boil.
After we made the solution, we waited 2 days, poured the solution into the Petri dishes, and waited 2 days for the solution to harden.
Gabe is going to now tell us about that.
First, we went to visit 10th graders. Then we let the agar boil. Mr. Durchie poured agar into Petri dishes. We left them to grow germs.
After the agar cooled and was hardened, then on the Petri dishes, split it into 4 sections with a time marker.
This is when we were collecting the samples. Each sophomore was partnered with 1 or 2 first graders.
After the sophomores and first graders were partnered, we then went throughout the high school to collect samples.
Cora is going to tell us some of the basic of the samples.
I found a place where I felt to Latina maybe what's included as macaroni, the ginseng fountain,
was after the experiment.
It's finally growing. The first graders could see the bacteria that was growing in the petri dishes, and Stockton's going to show us a drawing and tell us what he saw.
This shows how my germs started growing. The sink had the most germs.
These are types of bacteria. Bacteria types are determined by the color and shape. And that's the end of our presentation. Now, Gabe will tell us what he learned or found more interesting.
It was fun to find a lot of germs.
And then we'll also look at the board, as you can see here. We have all the petri dishes, right here. And some of the places in the school where we found the most germs were the library table, the locker, and the water fountain. And you can see those germs showing up.
All right, and is that it then? Thank you for the presentation. Are there any questions from the board?
No, it's good.
No, we appreciate you coming, and excellent job presenting, and we appreciate you coming, the first graders. You guys had a lot of confidence. You did really well, so thank you. Okay. With that, we'll move into the public comment portion of the agenda, and as of right now, I've received 4, and we'll go ahead and do them in the order they've been received. Laura, have you received any more? Okay. And as we're getting situated, we'll go ahead and start with Ms. Mendy Koblenner. I apologize if I butchered your last name. I'm here representing the Syringa Charter School. Yes, if you would please, and please go ahead and use the mic.
So my name is Mende Koblenz, and I am the pedagogical director at Syringa Charter School, Mountain School. That's just a fancy way of saying that I make sure the Waldorf curriculum blends with Common Core appropriately. And I have the good fortune to work with a very enthusiastic and passionate parent body who requested that I come and speak to you a little bit, since we're neighbors down the street from you. So I'm just here to say hello and to offer an invitation to come and visit our school whenever your schedules permit, if you haven't already done so. I know some of you have. We wanted to state that we're part of a national Waldorf charter school movement. We're held accountable to the Public Alliance charter school system. We do the same testing, I'm sure that your county, your district does. We take the SBACs, the IRIs, as well as the ISATs. And I'm just here to just really quickly dispel maybe some common misperceptions about Waldorf education that tend to circulate. One of which addresses literacy, and we do get a slower start in literacy, but it doesn't mean that we don't teach reading. And I want to just emphasize that we start a formal literacy program in kindergarten. It doesn't look the same as perhaps in other schools, but it develops in a way that would look similar in about first grade and moves onward. Another common misperception about Waldorf education is that we are a no-technology school. That is absolutely untrue. We are a slow technology school, which means that we don't really introduce it as part of the curriculum until about 3rd grade. But then, of course, our students will be exposed via Chromebooks. They, of course, have to take SBACs on the computer online, as everyone else does. And we're just really excited to be part of the Valley and to be part of school choice. It's thrilling, actually, all of the educational opportunities that we offer here in Blaine County. I'm a recently relocated to the Valley, and I'm just astounded at the plethora of options and what we provide here, and thrilled to be part of that choice myself. So I just wanted to say hello as a fellow colleague and welcome you to our school, and thank you for your time.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, and we'll move forward with Miss Pamela Plowman.
Green light's on.
Yep.
Okay. I want to thank you for bringing Daniel Pink to speak in our valley as the kickoff to our new strategic planning process. His message about the importance of independence and autonomy to do our best work and our best learning is in line with the latest brain growth and development research. If we want our children to be independent, lifelong learners, we need to let them practice independent, self-directed learning in school and witness the important example set by independent, self-directed teacher role models. We live in a time of cultural and world transformation, the likes of which the human race has never experienced before. We are awakening to the alarming realities of global climate change, species extinction, the depletion of soil, minerals, freshwater sources, and ocean fisheries, and the imminent occurrence of peak oil. We are facing the growing realization that industrial civilization is not indefinitely sustainable, but inherently and absolutely unsustainable. Humanity is experiencing birth pains, environmentally, economically, and educationally, struggling to transition from the industrial growth society of the past several hundred years to a life-sustaining society in harmony with Earth and enduring for the future. Cultural historian Richard Tarnas, among many others, describes our current evolutionary shift in no uncertain terms. He says, quote, "One need not be graced with prophetic insight to recognize that we are living in one of those rare ages, like the end of classical antiquity or the beginning of the modern era, that bring forth, through great stress and struggle, a genuinely fundamental transformation in the underlying assumptions and principles of the cultural worldviews. One thing we know, ecology teaches us that when climate patterns change or sudden events alter a habitat, life thrives best if there are various species with various means of adapting. The weakest ecosystem is a monoculture, an artificial selection of one variety at the expense of everything else. Our present education system of standardization strives to produce an educational monoculture. It provides an authorized, standardized curriculum mechanically delivered to students through textbooks and scripted lessons backed up by relentless testing and grading. In this time of cultural transformation, we need to recognize as a starting point that standardized education is inadequate for our time. It inhibits the radical change we need to make if our civilization is to survive and thrive. We need to move away from state and federal government mandates that are perpetuating the old paradigm of competition and standardization, the idea that one form of educational preparation fits all. The questions for educators are, 1, what do our young people most need from us in order to thrive in the world that they will inherit? And 2, how do we construct a bridge for them to make the journey from the civilization for which we were educated into the world that they will inhabit? The innovation and transformation in education that we need requires leaders who recognize that the whole current structure of testing and grading, condensing experience into officially sanctioned textbooks and curriculum units, and imposing authoritarian order in school buildings runs counter to ours and our children's need to be creative change agents in a rapidly changing world. We need leaders who recognize that, among other things, variety in learning opportunities and practices will make our students and our society most likely to survive and thrive in a very transformative time. I have one question for each of you. The information I sent you recently about the Deming philosophy of transformational leadership, I believe would help you in clarifying your leadership role in this essential educational transformation that we need. It would help you as leaders to do what a growing number of community members want. Help our district to move from educational practices based on competitive extrinsic motivation to ones based on cooperative intrinsic motivation for both students and teachers. Is this a direction that you are interested in moving? And if so, would you please consider bringing their training course here for you and our school administration? Thank you so much for your willingness to work hard and improve the education for our children.
All right.
Do you have a website?
I'm working
Thank-
on it.
Thank you very much. And I believe you've already given a copy to Ms. Kaufman?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And Ms. Penny Thayer.
Hi. I may be speaking in the wrong order. There may be a public comment that might be more appropriate
Okay.
after.
If you'd like
Should I
to,
wait?
if you'd like to hold it till
I think
later
I
on,
should
that'd be
wait.
fine. Okay. Sounds good. And then we'll go ahead with Ms. Kate Parnes.
Hi, I'm Kate Parnes, and I'm a teacher at Hemingway, but I want to make it really clear before I start that I'm not here speaking in the capacity of a teacher. I mean, I'm not speaking for any other teacher or anybody from Hemingway. I'm just here on my own and as a parent of 3 former Blaine County students and as a former trustee. So I appreciate how hard your budget decisions are, but I'm here because of the critical importance of achieving and maintaining low class sizes in our elementary schools, and most importantly in our primary K through 3 school or classrooms. It's because I was somewhat alarmed recently with Dr. Holmes when I read your letter about equity, but you referred to a policy that speaks to class size. But I was afraid that that policy was maybe misconstrued, because from the charts that you put in there, it looked as if the class sizes would be 20 and then 25 after, 3rd grade and on. And I just wanted to make sure that you understood that that policy was written at a time when it was to be the maximum numbers that we would accept in our schools before adding ideally another teacher, or at least another full-time paraprofessional. And so then it's not, having low class sizes is not just some kind of a whimsical ideal. There's now indisputable evidence from long-term research that shows that young students who have the opportunity to learn in small groups derive lifelong benefits. There's research you can find anywhere with our internet system now. But last year, a guy, his name happens to be David Zinger, but he compiled the results of 112 peer-reviewed studies. And out of 112, 109 of them showed that small class sizes have a significant impact on student achievement and on narrowing the achievement gap. So I'd love to read just a few of the examples that he gave. He said that, for example, this is, he quoted from an Educational Policy Center brief that, anyway, it said that finds that class size is an important determinant of a variety of student outcomes ranging from test scores to broader life outcomes. Smaller classes are particularly effective at raising achievement levels of low-income and minority children. Went on to say the study concludes that attending a small class, and by small, they typically used 17 as their definition, and a lot of that was based on one of the most famous Tennessee studies that used 15 to 17 as their target low class size. But anyway, it said that evidence, the summary of the facts provided convincing evidence that all types of students, that is low, medium, and high achievers, benefit from being in small class sizes in early grades across all achievement tests. And the cumulative effects of small class sizes for low achievers are substantial in magnitude. And thus, class size reduction appears to be an intervention that increases the achievement levels for all students, while simultaneously reducing that achievement gap. And then I feel kind of so nervous that I don't even know if I read this one, but they said that it actually increases the rate of college attendance with the largest positive impact on minority and poor students. And it said among those students with the lowest predicted probability of attending college, a small class increased the rate of college attendance by 11%. And it's pretty dramatic. The evidence seemed to show that this is the single most significant thing that we could ever do for children to have them succeed even in the upper grades. It has such an impact on them. And then the broadest conclusion to you as policymakers and as people responsible for the budget, it said that policymakers should carefully weigh the efficacy of class size policy against other potential uses of funds. While lower class size has a demonstrable cost, it may prove the most cost-effective policy overall. So I would just ask that when you're thinking about staffing, that some of our elementary schools, especially in the South Valley here, have far too many students in those early grades. I mean, if you want to not have to spend so much later on interventions, get those class sizes down now, and don't increase class sizes in the other elementary schools in an effort to kind of balance the spending. But really, please consider how important that may be for every child in the district long term. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's all the public comment sheets that we have received. Out of courtesy, I'll go ahead and ask if there's any other in the audience that would like to make a public comment. Mr. Galgano? Certainly. There is another public comment section later on. Okay. All right. Well, with that then, we'll go ahead and move forward with the superintendent report and turn the time over to Dr. Holmes.
Thank you. The first thing I'd like to mention, I'm sorry the Cary students have already left, but in case you haven't heard, the Cary boys basketball team took first place in state. We had a great celebration out there this afternoon, and we were very fortunate to have two of our county commissioners also be able to join us, and we had all the student body, and it was a fun time. But I think the thing that was most impressive to me was how some of the players on the team spoke about the qualities that had helped them achieve this accomplishment, and they talked about hard work, commitment, mental toughness, and teamwork. And so I thought that was a great model for anything you want to accomplish in life, and I loved the way they were sharing it with the kids. And then to finish it all off, the team who just won this championship served the rest of the student body cake. So how about that for servanthood? All right, so now to the items that are actually on the agenda. The first thing I just wanted to report on is that we have our first quarterly report from McKinstry on the energy savings guarantee agreement that is between Blaine County School District and McKinstry. It will be posted on the web tomorrow, both under finance and under facilities, so whichever way your brain thinks, you hopefully can find it. I want to give a huge thank you to both the technology and the facilities department staff. They have spent most of the last year trying to be able to get all of the data points. There are 450 pieces of equipment who every 15 minutes report a data point on this. And once a month, this massive load of data is uploaded so that they can do this report. So needless to say, it took quite a while last year for them to figure out how to get all of those data points uploaded and shared properly. But our first report shows that our savings were expected to be a little over $181,000, which is more than the guaranteed agreement. And so the first go-round, we're doing well. And so we should be getting those reports for every quarter for the next 20 years. So if you can't sleep at night, there's something to entertain you. Or if you're like our chairman, who when he saw the appendices and all the screenshots of all the pieces of equipment that are registering the data and get really excited about those kinds of things, I looked at it and didn't even know what it was trying to tell me. Okay, this second thing I just want to report on is the strategic planning update. I see a bunch of our steering committee folks in the audience because we'll be talking later on about their first piece of work that they've done. But the steering committee took the results from the first survey and have developed some shared values from those results. If you're wanting to look at the entire results from Survey 1, go to the website, look on the strategic planning page, and you can see them. You can see it's kind of a fun way to engage in a conversation with the whole county, because you can see the whole county's thoughts. You can see how they prioritized things. And yes, it's a lot of reading, but it also engages you in a conversation with the entire county. We've had our second round of meetings where we asked all of our stakeholders to help us in writing goals. That was the heavy lifting meeting because we had to look at where do we want to be. That's our vision. Where are we? That's our data. And how do we build a bridge? And so that was the goal writing that we were doing. And that was tough. We heard about some folks that used a lot of brain power at those meetings, and we thank you very much for that. That survey with all the vision items and goals is now open this week. It's open until midnight this Sunday night. Once again, it's a lengthy survey, but remember, you're engaging in a conversation with all 22,000 residents in Blaine County, or think of it that way, so you've got a lot to read to see what all your fellow neighbors have to say, and then help us prioritize in that area. The steering committee will be meeting again next week to continue the work on the feedback we're getting from those surveys. So, thank you.
All right, and I think it's very interesting to point out that we had one of our community meetings at Altus Elementary in the evening, and we had 54 participants in our meeting.
That was conducted in Spanish.
In Spanish, and that's more than any of the other meetings, or all the other meetings combined, apart from all the other community meetings, apart from our staff meetings. So I'd really like to say thank you to our Hispanic community for coming out and making your voice heard and sharing your insights with us. It's something we as a district have been struggling and wanting to do for a long time, and I'm grateful that you guys took advantage of that opportunity. So with that, in my chair report, I was just going to piggyback that the survey is open right now. Please take the time to take that survey. Like as Dr. Holmes said, it's open until midnight Sunday night. We want to hear the voice of all our constituency in the district. So if you haven't got an email to take that survey, go to the website. There's a link in order to do that. So please take advantage of that opportunity and help us shape the future of our students. So, and with that, I will turn the time over to Ms. Asia Pettingale for our Student Board Representative report and homework recommendations to the Policy Committee.
Okay, so I will start with the school updates. We'll start with Wood River High School. Their student council went to the Idaho Association of Student Council Conference in Boise, the 27th to the 28th. Junior Brady Delgadillo, I hope I say that right, Delgadillo, won the election and is now the vice president for the association. Spring sports have begun there. Ryan Anderson got 5th at state wrestling. Time for 3 came and performed for juniors and seniors Wednesday, March 5th. The Water Club is raising money to put in new water fountains that promote bringing your own water bottle. Model UN went to their Berkeley conference the 27th through March 1st. And unfortunately, basketball will not be going to state for Wood River. For Cary High School, as Dr. Holmes already mentioned, we won state in the 1A Division II. And Nate Adamson, Matt Whitworth, and Christopher Peck from our school, they are seniors, will be playing in all-star games today and tomorrow. Sadie Hawkins is set for March 14th this weekend. Play tryouts are coming up on the 18th of next week. 3 students competed in regional spelling bee in Twin Falls a couple weeks ago. Students were asked to present the Leader in Me 7 Habits program to a room full of Connect Share business people in Idaho Falls, as well as a couple of weeks ago. Track has begun. That's the only sport we offer in the spring at Cary.
And government class field trip to Haley Courtroom to watch cases was last week. Silver Creek High School, the State Department of Education has granted a waiver for a Carnegie unit. 40% of students are now out on an LTI, which is an internship at their school. 83% of students have out-of-school experience, community service, job shadowing, internships, that kind of stuff. Their chess team has state this weekend and nationals in 3 weeks, which is pretty cool. So now I will kind of touch on our homework recommendations to the policy committee. These are summaries, a summary that I made, so they're not specified completely as what Dr. Holmes typed up. So as members of the board and liaison discussed possible beneficial changes within the homework policy, we came up with a few recommendations that were greatly influenced by the opinions as well as factual evidence of students and teachers within the school district. Liaisons from each school. There's one liaison in each school if you weren't aware of that, at Silver Creek, Wood River, and Cary. And their principals coordinated time to give students and teachers the ability to take a survey that the Board of Trustees, student liaisons, and their advisors, meaning a few members of the board, constructed it in order to come up with these recommendations. 197 teachers, 459 middle school students, and 590 high school students participated in this survey, so it was very successful. Some examples of teacher survey questions were: how much homework do you assign? What is the percentage of a student's grade homework compromises? What type of homework do you give and why? And some example of student survey questions were: how much homework do you have on average? What do you think is the right amount of homework? What type of homework is helpful? And again, there was a few more, if not 5 or 6 more questions that I did not mention. Some of the specifications, we ordered 11 of them, and I'm just going to read off them. Again, I summarized them. They're not exactly right as we type them up. So the first one is: homework should be an extension of course/class assignments. It should be productive in mastering the academic content, skills, and understandings that are included in the standard of the course. 2, classwork and/or homework that is begun in class and provides opportunities to solidify understandings is appropriate. Redundant or busy work, as some people call it, is inappropriate and should not be assigned. 3, students involved in advanced honors classes and their parents should be made aware of the requirements and expectations at the beginning of the course. 4, schools should establish a system that allows teachers to collaborate and coordinate to avoid excessive homework, staying with the following basic time guidelines. And these are represented on the original copy. 5, coursework and/or homework should be assigned only after an introduction and thorough explanation of the skills necessary to complete the assignment successfully. 6, coursework and/or homework should be assigned where clearly understood by students. 7, coursework and/or homework should serve a valid purpose and be productive in mastering the course requirements. 8, a student's access to resource material should be considered when making assignments. 9, coursework and/or homework should be evaluated promptly and returned to the student. 10, homework should not be used for disciplinary purposes. And 11, grades should be a reflection of student mastery of content and competencies. Homework compliance should not be a part of a student's grade. And that's all of that.
All right. We appreciate the time and effort you took to not only give the school report, but the report on the homework policy and how that was created. Took a lot of extra time and effort on the Student Board of Representatives' part to put together a survey, go out, survey their fellow peers as well as the teachers, and get that information back. So we appreciate that extra effort. Are there any questions from the board?
Yeah, I guess that was amazing. That's great. I can't believe the successful response for the survey. That's great. There's a lot of great recommendations. What's the next step for this?
We give it to the policy committee.
So does the policy committee then write the policy?
The policy committee will be holding public hearings so that we also hear from parents, because that voice has not been included yet. We've had teachers and students. Then they will bring recommendations to the board based on all that. I think are you one of the...
I'm on that policy committee. We had that conversation. I missed the last meeting, but the meeting before that. And it's a pretty weighty subject, right? Like, it's not a quick fix or a quick idea. So we're going to get more input, put it out for a little bit of public comment, get that back, and then try to craft something in the fall of this year, because to put something in place at the end of this year would be too quick, and it requires more diligence than just, well, let's give 2 hours in this class, or this is 20 minutes per hour, whatever. It's going to take some deep diving work to really come up with something clear cut.
So, so you're on another committee, or are you an ad hoc member to the policy committee?
I'm signed up on policy committee now.
He's a board rep on the policy
Mhm.
review committee right now.
Yes.
So these recommendations will go out to the public, and then the public will add their recommendations that you're seeing at a hearing. Is that the?
Well, the student recommendations went to the policy committee. They are public by the mere fact that they're part of this meeting.
Right.
But the public hearings.
It's kind of town halling it up. We wanted to set up,
Is what they have to
get
say
some
about
feedback.
homework, not what they have to say about what the students found in their survey.
Right. In addition to.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
The last one, if you could reread that again, I'm sorry. It was.
Yeah, I will. So that's the 11th. One grade should be a reflection of a student's mastery of content and competencies. Competencies. That's a hard word. Homework compliance should not be a part of a student's grade.
Homework compliance should not be part of a student's grade. That's,
Mhm.
I mean, that's a very bold statement. I'm interested to hear. That's what I thought I heard.
You heard that. I heard that too.
Okay, and then the other thing that I wanted to say is thank you to Steve Guthrie for bringing this up, for persevering, for not letting it go, for doing it in a respectful, and it's finally gotten traction, and I'm grateful to you. And I think that was it Sandy Fine? Sandy Scott also came and gave a fantastic presentation that first time, and then you've been in the trenches ever since. So just wanted to say thank you for that. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Asia.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, that was great.
And for your 3 months of service to the board.
Yeah.
We'll give you the next few months off. How's that? Appreciate it. Thank you very much. So, and then I also wanted to touch on the declaration of candidacy deadline for the May 19th trustee election. That is coming up relatively quickly. You got about another week and a half to get paperwork in for those who will plan on running for zones 1, 3, and 5. I just got mine in today, and I believe that's the first one that's been turned in. So please consider it. We're going to need people to help us serve on the board, so please get you the signatures you need, and we need people to step up and help.
Be a part of our future.
There you go.
Could you clarify that date?
The declarations of candidacy have to be in by 5 p.m. on March 20th,
Friday, March 20th?
a week from this Friday. So they have to be turned in before then, and that's zones 1, 3, and 5. I apologize, we can't. Not at this time, if that's okay. We also had 3 of us go to the Day on the Hill for the Idaho State School Boards Association this past month. Trustee Schwartle, Trustee Baker, and myself. We also had Mr. John Blackman attending with us, as well as Dr. Gwen Carroll Holmes. And for a little summation of that, it was a good experience to be able to go over, sit through presentation from the Idaho State School Boards Association to both the Senate and the House committees. They talked a lot about a survey that was done among trustees from the whole state as far as our political affiliations, male, female, age, all the demographic information, and how broad of a base we actually represent. And school boards are no different than any other group, including the Senate and the House, as far as most of that information. And what it really comes down to is we've got so many elected officials lobbying for and really trying to do what's best for the students of Idaho. And I'd like to thank my fellow trustees for putting in the time and the effort. It's been a long few years. We've had a lot of meetings, and I really appreciate the dedication and the effort that everyone's been putting in. So a lot of the big topics at Day on the Hill was fortunately one we don't have as direct of involvement with. A lot of the air in the room was being taken up by the Idaho Education Network and whether or not that was going to go dark. Fortunately, they've got some things worked out, and it did not go dark, but because of some of our district's foresight and planning and increasing our bandwidth through other contracts, appreciate Mr. Mike Chatterton for his foresight in that. That really wouldn't have affected us anyway, and we're very fortunate to our community and our tax base to be able to provide that without interruption to our students. So with that, there was some slight discussion on the career ladder system that is hoping we need it to be in place because the money that's being tied to the increase in teacher salaries from the state, if that career ladder system does not get signed off on this legislative system or this legislative session, that money goes away and it will go to roads or some other department or tax relief. So we really need our legislators to step up and get that passed off. Otherwise, there will not be additional funding for our teachers. And I know we have Phil Homer, who's a lobbyist for us, and I believe that Dr. Holmes and John Blackman are setting up schedules to meet up weekly to go over what's going on and to keep us abreast of any changes with that. And I don't know if there's any updates since ISBA you'd like to touch on.
We met with him on Friday, and Marie Wolfram from the association joined us. And it's still up in the air whether that money for increase in teacher salaries will happen or not, because there are a lot of folks who are pretty insistent that it be tied to some type of teacher evaluation, merit pay type of system. It is currently in the current proposed bill. 3 years from now, that part would start, and each local school district would figure out for themselves how that would work, how that would look. But right now, that money is still tied to that, and it seems like that's something that comes together or doesn't come at all, is the current thinking.
I think it's 31 million, if
Yes.
I remember.
Where is the bill at? I mean, is it in committee? Is it on the floor?
It's on the floor. It's on the floor. And I think they had hearings today about it.
Yeah, I think they did.
Pay attention to the update, the weekly update from the superintendent, and I'm sure there'll be more information as it comes readily available to us. So with that, for our announcements, we have upcoming on March 17th, 4 p.m. Financial Committee meeting. We have a Strategic Planning Steering Committee meeting on Tuesday, March 18th at 4 in the district office. I believe it's Tuesday. We have our Wednesday, sorry. We have our Policy Committee meeting on March 19th at 4 p.m. at the community campus in the Mini Moore Room. We have our spring break coming up March 23rd through the 27th. Wellness Committee will be meeting March 30th at 4 here in the district office. We also have a Strategic Plan Steering Committee meeting, not if needed, we'll plan on having it, on March 31st at 4 at the district office. And we have our regular April board meeting on Tuesday, April 14th, here at 6 p.m. So with that, are there any other announcements from the board? All right. Go ahead and dive into the business section and turn the time over to Mr. John Blackman for the draft policies for review.
I just saw him run out the door to the parking lot.
Okay. Due to timing, we'll...
Due to an AWOL assistant superintendent.
John just went outside.
Am I that rough to deal with? Come on. Okay.
He's coming.
He's rocking in the door. I apologize. Am I that hard to deal with? We missed you. All right, we'll turn the time over to you, Mr. Blackman.
You want to come on
Do you
up?
want to come up for the for the draft policies, please?
You're really up.
He's rattled. I had it up on my computer. So.
I apologize. Sorry about that. Do you need to bring that up?
No.
No.
I've looked at it. So. These are just the forms that are under the new policy, policy on policy. These are the forms that go with your requests as to the reason for looking at policies. So the first policy.
Okay, tell me when you want me to go down.
Yeah, the first policy that you're looking at is compensatory pay for non-exempt employees that work 246 days or longer. And this is just for your first touch.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that came back after the first view was, one thing that came up was that we would look at it for all classified staff. The problem with that is the bulk of our classified staff don't work year-round. So it wouldn't make sense for a 180-day employee to build up compensatory time because they already have sick leave, personal leave, things like that. This is for our year-round employees, our maintenance, custodial, some of those employees that work 246 days or more that don't really have vacation time. So this would allow them to also build compensatory time, so save us on overtime since they're entitled to that. This is just another way to pay the overtime. You have to pay it exactly the same. So time is worth time and a half, and this would allow them to build up to 40 hours of compensatory time, and then how that would have to be used. So this is the draft policy for your preview. Any questions?
No. Okay.
Laura, you want to scroll to the next policy?
Well, okay, there's the 901.
901, this is the use of fields. There was a request from the lacrosse club to look at the policy, the existing policy, which was old, and look at how fields are scheduled, but it's also all our facilities, so classrooms, auditoriums, any of our facilities, how those are scheduled and what priority different groups are given based on different criteria. So you can see the philosophy. The old one was, this was written in '90. The old one was basically 2 sentences. So we restructured the philosophy. We went around and around and came up with 3 different ones and then combined them and came up with this belief statement.
Mr. Blackman, can I ask who were the ad hoc members on this committee?
The ad hoc members on the committee were Howie Royal, Teresa Gregory, yeah, right there, Clara Martin, Jim Keating, John Rady, Mike Chatterton.
I have some questions about this, the philosophy. I guess I read the very short statement that was crossed out, and it seems like that seems to be a very important statement right there, that we at the Blaine County School District, we have partnerships, all over with different groups and from the county with the cities, and that we want to share those facilities, which we do, clearly.
If you look in the second paragraph, we try to make sure and include that.
Pardon?
In the second paragraph, we tried to make sure and include that. We did feel that was important.
Yeah, I feel like that's a really important statement, and I guess I would like to have that left in. That's my own personal feedback after sort of looking at this. because I think it's a great statement. I did see that in the second paragraph when it says BCSD understands that there is a need to ensure equal opportunity to other programs and how this is important. And I think that's a great statement as well. But it does sort of feel like in the top paragraph that we're really just kind of focused on high school. The IHSAA programs.
Idaho High School Athletic Association.
Yes, that it seems like we're really focused on those programs while we do have students that do other, they don't play baseball or football or tennis or soccer, and they're not those athletes, but they're the other athletes as well. And I feel like it's very focused on those activities, I guess, and we know that there's lots of reasons why skiing can't be a high school association sport.
It's not.
I know it's not, and there's lots of different reasons because of funding and whatnot. I mean, with some schools have it in other states, but not here. So I guess those are my first sort of initial thoughts.
I think the thought of the committee was to come up with criteria in which to prioritize the use of your facilities rather than a free-for-all. So if the board has suggestions on this policy, this is for your preview. You can definitely change those and send them back to the policy committee for further review.
Okay.
Dr. Holmes.
I think one of the things that maybe is we're kind of talking around here that maybe needs to be made explicit is that besides the school district putting monies into the maintenance of our fields and scoreboards and stuff, the Blaine County Rec District is a big partner in that and puts significant dollars in each year to that as well. And that might be part of the confusion sometimes on why the Blaine County Rec District is given the priority that they're given under this policy for the use of fields, is because of the fact that they contribute significant dollars to the maintenance of our fields. And when we redid a scoreboard recently, they contributed money to that.
And to add to that, I think, whenever you prioritize anything, you have to have some criteria in which you're prioritizing. I think the reason the IHSAA is in there is we are a member of that organization in order for us, and we are members of conferences and leagues that we compete in, and we offer those sports to our students directly as part of our curricular programming. So it's been ingrained in part of who we are as a public education system for many years. So that was just a starting point. Doesn't mean that's where we have to start, but that would be up to the board.
Yeah, I think part of the thinking there was that when there are sports in season, that was the main part of the conversation. When sports are in season, there should be no preemption of their utilization of facility by other activities because the sports fields are built for that, right? And then as you looked at out of season or different times a year, then the utilizations could be differently appropriated. But it's important that if it's soccer season and there's a soccer field and we have a varsity soccer team, they get to use the field first.
Oh.
That was pretty much where we were
And
coming
I don't,
from.
and I know we'll get down to that.
That's where the prioritization came out of, I believe. Wouldn't you say?
That's correct, but one thing people are missing here is that our gymnasiums are actually in higher demand than even the fields. Yeah. We have more fields available to us than we do open gym space. So when it comes to scheduling those, Teresa Gregory, who's responsible for scheduling a lot of those facilities, people want them at the same time. And so how do you make a clear delineation as to what takes precedence?
Right. I guess, right now we're talking about this, philosophy here. And I guess that's my feedback is on this philosophy in its seems very focused in on, except for, maybe a couple lines here, on the high school association sports, rather than, we're doing this for the whole Blaine County School District and for all of our community, because we all put money for our tax dollars into the fields and whatnot. So that's just my...
I think the committee's direction on that was just basically to look at how we're prioritizing and does the philosophy match why we're prioritizing that way. As opposed to, we believe in all community being equal, but here's our priority list putting IHSAA first. So, I mean, it was basically to match the philosophy with the philosophy of how we're going to delineate that. Again, I'm more than happy to have the board write its own statement and give me direction on that. So if you guys want to get together and give me a direction on that, that'd be awesome. But that was what the committee, the policy committee came up with.
Okay.
So.
And just as a reminder, no 3 board members getting together on a policy recommendation with violation of open meeting law.
Unless you post it first.
That's right.
This is simply the recommendation.
Yeah, that's correct. The middle schools and Cary Junior High, that's all governed by the Idaho High School Athletic Association. So basically 7th, there's no 6th-grade sports. So 7th through 12th is included in that.
But we wanted to get a recommendation to you for your preview so that you can look at it before the scheduling season really gets underway. We have a lot of organizations already asking for fields now when they're not ready for traffic. That was where Howie comes in, because a lot of damage can be done to those fields, especially at this point, at this time of year. So there's also maintenance and upkeep of those facilities that we want to make sure that we're not wearing out those facilities where nobody can really use them effectively.
We're being asked to vote on this tonight?
No.
No, this is just for preview.
No.
This is a first touch. We'll come back to the board in April.
This is just the first draft to you guys.
There's a lot to think about here. When I look at this, I'm like, wow, I didn't consider that. I didn't consider that. Yeah.
There was a lot of discussion around this.
So, wait,
Trustee Graves.
can we go back to the 901.4 now? Okay. Yep, no, you were up. Keep going. Okay, stop. The second part. Yeah, the second. So do we, I don't know if, John, you wanted to explain how this
Well, the old one, you
question.
can see the old one had 5 categories. We went from 5 to 9, actually, to try and delineate it and make it more clearly understandable as to where things fall. It was a little bit vague. When you say public agencies, what does that mean? And what classifications of public agencies. So we try to divide it a little, or delineate it a little bit more clearly. So one of the things in there, in taking into consideration La Crosse's request, was single-season sports, which you can see there under 5. So there's actually now 4 categories below that, whereas before they actually fell in category 5. So there were some considerations of like a lot of things, like Trustee Schwartle mentioned. So there's a lot that goes on. You'll see some gym, references there. There's a lot that happens in our facilities all the time. They are very open to the public. Mm-hmm. You can go by that community campus 24/7 and it's being used. So we just want to make sure that most of the time we don't have issues. Most of the time there are not conflicts. But if one does arise, then how do we clearly show people how decisions are made and that we're transparent in those decisions? Because before it was pretty arbitrary. It was like, well, how come if I'm a public agency and this public agency took preference over me or our organization, how was that decision made, and that's not really delineated in the old policy. So we try to make it clear so that people at least have a transparent understanding of how those decisions are made.
Yeah.
So there couldn't be prejudice or favoritism granted to certain groups and different things, or the parents.
Less anyway, we would hope.
Yeah. And I know this, we're talking a lot about the community campus, but I know this affects a lot district-wide. I know the track down in Cary has struggles between high school track season, junior high track season, and the grade school rec track program, all trying to use the same track. During basketball season, I was inundated with phone calls of, well, how come I can't use it this day? And it's like, we have a policy, so I appreciate you taking a look at this this policy and making it as clear-cut as possible, and really putting those guidelines out there.
If you want to see something really interesting, Howie has a whole list of events that happen on our grounds that his maintenance folks do free of charge for our public, and it's about 3.5 pages long. It was pretty. I didn't know that. I mean, I've been here a long time, and I didn't know how much goes on just in our facilities.
That might be a nice PR piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I appreciate all the hours that went into this, because I know it's really hard. It's kind of like the homework policy. There's so many different
pieces of the puzzle.
Viewpoints, different ways of looking at it. So I do appreciate all the hours that have put into it, and I know field space, gym space, it's like gold here in the county. But I do have some more questions here about some of this hierarchy. And again, I like the sentence that was actually crossed out here that says, to assure that school district facilities will best serve the public, a list of priorities, rules, regulation, and conditions of this have been established as follows. Because again, if we're just we're trying to develop the whole child here in our district, whether they play ultimate frisbee or they ski or lacrosse or golf or tennis or whatever it is, and we want to be able to support that. And so it seems highly focused on the state high school association activities here. And I realize that we've got a hierarchy, a priority list down here, but that's my...
And I understand your point, but I also see the fact that we as a school district, we do own, pay for, maintain, build these facilities for our students. We are in charge of students. We are not in charge of a park and recreational program. There are park and recreational districts that are in charge of their own facilities, and we're not suggesting that we can tell them how to run their facilities, but yet we have put the time and the financial investment in to build these facilities up for our students' needs, where there's other avenues where, say, ultimate and golf and other things like that can be taken advantage of without necessarily using the facilities while other people that have ties to the district are using them. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, I mean, I can appreciate that, and I appreciate you saying that our duty is to our students, but it's to our students whether they, are playing soccer or they're playing ultimate frisbee. They're our students from our schools. So, and I completely agree that number one, you've got here, the priorities of the high school association and middle school programs. First priority. Mm-hmm. In-season sports, that's what they should do. I do have a question on what second season Idaho High School Activities Association high school and middle school programs, including school-affiliated camps and clinics, what that is, John.
Well, the ISHAA, if I can say that right, does have where they designate a second season for sports to be able to do things like where coaches can actually coach kids. So if you were going to do a spring soccer season or a fall soccer season or things like that, there are timelines that the SHAA, holds you accountable to. So there are times that you cannot coach. There are times you can coach. So if those programs are directly supporting those high school programs and they involve those high school athletes in support of their regular season sport, that would be considered second season. Some try to stretch it to third season. One of the problems we've had with our athletics in more recent years, unlike when I was competing, is that coaches now and parents see their sport as year-round. And so, you know, I used to do football, wrestling, track, and then off in the summer, but now it's you concentrate on one sport. And that's unfortunate in my opinion, but then you got coaches out there who want to run their sport year-round. And some of them are getting into third seasons, and that's where we got to say, you know, you're monopolizing not only the students, but you're monopolizing the facilities, and that's why we put in there, you know, the single season sports needed to be moved up, because that's the only opportunity that they have. So those were some things that were considered in that.
So just to clarify, so for example, I'll use soccer. So if Luis and Eric wanted to run a soccer clinic in the spring, they would have precedent on those fields. If Sawtooth Soccer wanted to have their middle school team practice on that field, is that a second priority?
Yes, I mean, I would say that
that's a club team.
Yeah, that if our coaches are running a camp for the high school athletes or the middle school athletes that's affiliated with the school in a second season, then it would take precedence over the club.
No, but what would the
club is further down the line.
That's what I'm asking. Is the Sawtooth Soccer 12-year-old, 13-year-old groups soccer where?
Yeah, as you can see there, it says K-12 club programs.
Okay, so that's.
And then we even discussed, I don't know where we came up because they missed the last meeting, but then when you start to get to the club level, do you give preferential treatment to a nonprofit club or a for-profit club, or how do you manage that one as well? I mean, that was a little detail that we dug into because there's a definite distinction there as well. Somebody's running a business and utilizing facility at the cost of a taxpayer versus a nonprofit entity who wants to use it. You got to distinguish that as well.
If we have space that's not in use, we are more than happy to make that available to anybody that's willing to you know, follow the process.
Oh yeah, I
and sign
know.
up for it.
Yeah.
So you know, we never, you know, if a facility is being unused and it's not a field where, you know, that it's not ready for use or needs a rest between use, the gyms are probably the most prevalent here. So a lot of times you'll have basketball season going on, you've got a second season volleyball going on, and you've got a club volleyball going on, and they all want the same space. A lot of times we can accommodate them in other buildings with other gymnasiums. We do our best to do that, but again, you have a finite amount of facilities. They're always being used, but not everybody can be in there at the same time. So what are, you know, how do you distinguish that?
Yeah, and there was another element of actual prioritization as well, because when you have a competitive schedule, when there are actual league meets, like that should supersede everything, because if you have a scheduled athletic contest, interscholastic, you can't have the gym given up for, I mean, that's your obligation, right? So there needs to be some degree of delineation so that that doesn't become an issue.
And another problem we run into that Rob's kind of alluding to is in the spring, we have a lot of cancellations due to weather.
Yep.
And then someone could have that field or that facility signed up for, and then the next thing you know, John's got to schedule a game that wasn't scheduled and pop it into the schedule last minute to make that makeup baseball game or whatever's going on in that field. And so sometimes that happens. Not very often because it's mostly baseball where those cancellations happen. Tennis gets canceled a lot. Baseball, softball, you know, track. Those are all sports that once you're canceled, you have to make up those competitions for your league play. So so how do you make that determination of, well, we signed up for the field, But again, this is kind of what the Blaine County School District is committed to being a part of, is the ISHAA. So if we're committed to being in a league and competing, like Cary winning a state championship basketball game, then are we committed to that? Is that our number one priority? So,
John, correct me if I'm wrong on my understanding that currently lacrosse is not part of the Idaho High School Athletic Association.
Not currently.
Are there any talks about in the future?
There's been some growth in the state in lacrosse participation. I think the ISHAA is looking into that. They could become a sanctioned sport at some point. When I began here, soccer was not a sanctioned sport. It was a club sport solely. But then they became sanctioned about my 7th year here and became a school sport. So when I first came here, it was a totally club sport run by Eric Larson, and then it became a sanctioned sport through Idaho Athletic Association, and that changed the landscape. So.
And there's no guarantees with that, but it's very possible that could be part under and be given priority when it becomes sanctioned by the High School Athletic Association.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I mean, I know that's important, but I think, you know, you brought up lacrosse. Lacrosse has 25, 26 participants from our high school, so I feel like it's kind of splitting hairs. We've got 26 kids out representing Wood River High School, you know, playing.
But that's true of hockey, swimming.
Exactly, you know, and they're out there.
There's a lot of club sports that
Right.
put Wood River on their name.
Right.
There are times when when we're lucky that they're not affiliated. I don't know if you remember what happened with lacrosse a few years back with a coach, and we were lucky that they weren't associated with us officially.
Well, you know, right now we've got 26 of our kids that are out from the high school that would not be playing golf or tennis or doing the spring sports, that are out there playing for their school. And, you know, I think it's great that there's a program that they can, you know, that we've got that program now.
No argument there. It's
And
just, and if there's
it
no,
gives a lot of kids something
and if there's
that
no
they want to do.
conflict with an in-season sport at the high school, because I mean, you could also argue that we have more than that playing baseball. You know, we have kids in school sports that outnumber that. I mean, but that's not the case. If the fields are available, we're going to make them available.
Yeah, the district's very, very generous with that.
This is only in case there's a conflict.
Right.
This is only in case the fields are double booked. Who takes precedent?
Right. And I don't know if it's better for me to, you know, share my concerns here, or if you want me to come and talk to, since we're talking about this for a while, or talk to you about this next week.
I would say if the board's going to direct the committee, the board needs to direct the committee.
So.
If you have concerns.
So I guess, and this is going to be a little bit of an
them up and we'll
outlandish
discuss them.
what if, because I don't think that this would happen. We've got Blaine County Rec District programs, which are K through 8 programs, basically. They don't have any high school sport programs. And so at this point, if there's a Blaine County Rec District field activity, let's say, that needs a field, and let's say it's for 5th graders, right now it takes precedent over
Because look at the population they're serving.
An ultimate team out of the high school or a lacrosse team. And that somehow, you know, using, and I'm specifically talking about the high school fields. And that's the problem, I think, what's really hard, is that we're talking about all our fields. We're talking about elementary school fields. We're talking about middle school fields. So I think it's very hard to put together the right priority.
And I think in looking at, you know, Blaine County Rec, I think the issue there was the amount of our elementary students that they serve, and that's in the hundreds. I mean, baseball alone is, what, 500? Optimist football is another couple hundred. So, I mean, the programs that Blaine County Rec, the youth programs, are now going from the high school and secondary level to the primary levels, and that's where the majority of our kids that are enrolled in our schools compete, is in the Blaine County Rec program.
So they're still our students, just maybe not high school, but in the...
Well, we don't have the Idaho Athletic Association competitive sports at the elementary level. Like I said, this is just for your purview, like any policy.
Yep.
The board writes policy. I'm trying to,
Yeah.
make recommendations, or the committee's trying to make recommendations to help that. But if you guys want to get together and write something different, we're open to it.
Catherine, I think you're so up on this, especially because of your background. So I appreciate all the details that you understand that we don't.
Thank you. Well, I do appreciate you coming forward this, and I just wanted to share some of the concerns that I had.
Sure. All right. I appreciate that, and thank you for discussing the recommended updates to the policies.
Do I get to get off the hot seat now?
Sorry, John.
I believe so. With that, we'll go ahead and turn the time over to Fritz Peters for the Wood River Middle School proposed course changes.
I'll just introduce this, and then Mr. Peters can take questions if you have any. This is, once again, according to the board policy 602.7, that says that course additions or deletions are to be approved by the board. And Mr. Peters is proposing adding several different elective classes next year. They are tentatively being enrolled as we speak because it's that time of the year. And then the biggest one on there probably of note is the drama class, because that would require a teacher, a hire. We are proposing that the middle school be given another teacher because all of our students are at not all of our students, the majority of our students are at the secondary level right now. So as our waves of students move from elementary to secondary, we need to move teachers to secondary. The other proposal he has here is for changes in the names of the world language classes so that there's easy flow from middle school to high school. It's easy to understand who's where and who's doing what. And the high school proposal that comes after this is the very same thing, changing those world language class names so that they flow smoothly. So if there's any questions, Mr. Peters is here to answer them.
I'll open it to the board for any questions they might have.
I can't get this up for some reason. I looked at it before. Here. Oh, thanks.
Trustee Schwartle.
I really like the idea of the drama. I think that starts to bring a kind of climate of public speaking and talk about a real-world skill. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, we looked at our facilities and trying to increase our electives. Our electives haven't changed since we had about 620 kids at the school. Now we have well over 100 more than that. And the only real facility we have is the quiet room in the afternoon, and it's a big room, and it could facilitate some type of program like that. There's a little bit of a void right now because they have a program at the elementary that works through the Company of Fools, and then they have Carl's program at the high school. We haven't had a program, so I talked to Denise Simone and Caitlin Ziegler with SVCA and Company of Fools, and they're already out there searching for potential candidates if we, so when we offer that position, if we can. Our biggest goal there is to not only increase our electives because they're so cramped and tight, but just to the performing arts really could use a boost and not have that gap where kids for 3 years can't continue that program. So we're really excited about that. Stages of Wonder has been very effective in the elementaries, and then Carl's program, by virtue of just one of his last plays as well, is a very successful program too.
That's great. Yeah, I'd love to see those. Whatever kind of performance they do, be school-wide required watching. That's when you get everybody really interested in it. When it's not just a little niche.
Okay. Any other comments?
I just have a question. Where the online magazine, the drama, the creative writing, the current events, they all seem like great classes. And how did you come up with those? Was that a school-wide, or staff, teachers, kids? How did you come up with those classes?
There's a push for us to have some similar collaboration time for teachers. And right now our elective teachers, by virtue of being a pretty small group and not growing at all, have really a crazy schedule during the day. They have much less time to collaborate or plan than the other teachers. And in creating, where do we have some room to create electives is with some of our core teachers where we have a little bit of extra movement. And they were all over this. They really wanted to create this. We offered a creative writing class a couple of years ago, and one section of it this year, and it was crowded. And so we really are, these are called core electives, where you're using a humanities teacher or a language arts teacher to actually create an elective where someone is strong in that category. So the social studies teachers really are excited about the current events class because so much of our curriculum is devoted to specific eras. Like our 8th grade curriculum is early American history, our 7th grade curriculum is specifically about the Eastern Hemisphere, and then our 6th grade curriculum is about the Western Hemisphere. So they tend to study cultures, but our kids do not really have a good grasp on current events. And some teachers try to fit that in, but we really think that they will blossom in this type of course because we want them to argue about the topics that are in the news, and they just don't have that opportunity very often.
Right. I think they're great. I think all of the classes look great.
Any other comments?
And I just want to emphasize the world language changes. We have had just a very big problem with the 1A, 1B type of thing because it doesn't translate well to the high school. And then like a student in 8th grade, if they're brand new, if they take 1A, they have to just take 1 over again in high school because they didn't have B. So now it'll just be year 1, year 2, year 3. The world language teachers across the board, high school and middle school, are really excited about the change. Good. It's going to be much more seamless and the transition will be much better.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for taking care of that need for us. With that, there's also some course changes from the high school and Mr. Keith Nielsen.
Well, I can thank Fritz for already explaining it to you. Molly, relax. What we did is we had the world languages departments at both schools get together because we were having that conflict. So we sped up world language at the middle school and slowed world languages at the high school down to simplify it because we weren't getting what we thought was a real good transfer of courses at both the schools. So I think what Molly and the World Languages Department did at Angie was a great way that they collaborated and got together. It was very impressive. They spent a couple days together and shared curriculum. Hello, it's a new concept, I think. So they were pretty excited about bringing their curriculum apps together, which makes it a lot easier for them and working together. So I think right now what we're looking at is, after talking to my counselor, Kristen Swafford, we have the enrollments at the high school online, and the enrollments at the middle school we're waiting to see what is recommended based on these changes. So I'm not quite sure how it's all going to fit together, but it will fit together based on recommendations from the teachers as well as ACTFL. And if we want to know what that acronym stands for, we'll have to ask Molly. But it's
American Council of Teachers for Foreign Language.
Pardon me?
It's the American Council of Teachers of Foreign Language.
Thank you.
Totally makes sense.
It's a nationally recognized system of understanding English.
There you go. So we think that this is going to work really well. When Kristen and I drew it out today, it was totally confusing. I asked her 5 different times, but she finally said, Keith, just go ahead and show the slide and walk away. So we think it's going to work really well. And I was a little bit concerned about the Spanish 6 and Spanish 7, and she said that because showing that on a transcript could be a problem for a college, but she said that they will just write a letter and explain it to them, saying that because of International Baccalaureate and the movement of Spanish in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, that we've gone to this route, and it'll be a pretty easy explanation. So she wasn't concerned about it, which I appreciate it.
Most kids going into college will also be tested before they're placed in an advanced language class too. So most colleges don't take the school district's word for it.
Right.
So, but this will be a huge step forward in creating common expectations from the middle school to the high school and what kids should be learning each year.
I appreciate the collaboration and the middle school and high school getting together, working together to, along with Molly and Angie to be able to do this. It's pretty amazing, so thank you very much.
So we did this in Spanish and French, so that's where we're showing both of them on there. All right, thank you.
What about Latin?
I don't know if we teach Latin at the middle school, do we?
No, I'm just being...
Please.
You said you did it in Spanish and French, and so you should do it in Latin, too.
Well, says they're on Castellano.
So we're going to have an AP Spanish class, an AP Spanish language and culture, AP French language and culture. Is that right? And then AP Spanish literature and culture.
We're going to offer those. Running them could be a whole different story.
That was my question. Do we have that level of students to fill?
I think AP Spanish we do.
Uh-huh.
And we definitely have it coming at us from the middle school.
Right.
That's our largest population of students right now, and the vast majority of them are taking world languages. So it's coming.
The French movement is growing, so we're excited about that too. Anybody else?
And then so what's the difference between, okay, there's an AP Spanish and French, then there's advanced Spanish and French, and AP Spanish literature and culture?
Advanced Spanish Conversation and Composition is not it's not an AP course, but it's more of an advanced course that students could go into. So we're not calling it AP. There is no AP Conversation and Composition.
Okay.
We'll call it a heritage course.
Right, so you'll see what happens with signups.
Right. This is kind of our, I think we use the word dual immersion continuum. So we want to be able to offer students classes and options as they move up.
Okay.
We know we have enough for one section of the Advanced Spanish Conversation and Composition next year, so that will run with the students that we've already talked to.
That's great.
And then AP Spanish Literature and Culture will run every other year, starting the following year.
Okay, so it doesn't start next year, it starts the following, okay.
We have run it in the past, but we need to allow the numbers to grow for students that can
Okay. Right, all the kids that have started in the middle school with the IB program, yep, coming up. Thank you for that clarification. Okay.
All right. Any further questions? Okay. We will go ahead and move forward with the Substance Abuse Intervention Program by Dr. Holmes.
Okay, I'm going to ask Mr. McGee to come up to the table because he's going to do the primary presentation here, but I'll just set it up for him. This has been quite an area of struggle this year for both the administration and the Board of Trustees as we've struggled on how to help students who are, have substance abuse issues and how to try to help them move forward both in life and in academics so that they are not becoming dropouts type of thing. So we started last fall having meetings with many of our partners, and many of them are in the audience. We have our partners from the Drug Coalition. I've seen them in the audience. Juvenile Justice. I don't know if anybody's here from St. Luke's. I know Aaron's out of town today. Alliance and Status Offender's Office have all been having conversations with us about this for a couple months. We looked at, did a root cause analysis, looked at some of the issues that were maybe contributing to this difficulty in our community with students having these difficulties, and what were the ones that we thought we could actually leverage and do something about. And then we tasked Mr. McGee to figure this out for us. And so he got a small committee from the high school, and they have done an incredible amount of work and now have a proposal that they are bringing to you tonight that would be for primarily intervention. They're still working on the prevention part of the program. But I do want to take this moment to say that as our student population has shifted to the secondary school, and as it is very painful, but we are making the recommendation that 5 teacher positions be moved to the secondary level. No one is going to be without a job, but it will be a switch in where these positions are because the majority of our kids are now at the secondary level. One of these teacher positions would be tasked with this program, and then one mental health therapist would be hired as well to work with this program. So with that, Mr. McGee, you want to introduce your team, or
Yeah.
I see some of them here anyway.
Yeah. At first, Sharma Thornton's here. And sorry.
Thank you.
Sharma Thornton's here. And I know Carrie is out of state right now, Haugen. And Jesse Need had baseball. I'm not sure if he was able to make it in. But they all wanted to be here. But we are really excited to present to you what we have found. Our team has done an amazing job. A lot of work has gone into it. And so we want to thank the board for giving this our opportunity to let you know what we've learned and our recommendation. Special thanks to Dr. Holmes for her leadership and taking this significant issue of drug abuse in our community and our schools to help with the impact that drug use can have on our students. And this is a great opportunity for our district. Lastly, I wanted to thank my amazing teammates, Sharma, Jesse, and Carrie, for all they've done in the work, a lot of work on their own time to help with this. So also like to thank the Drug Coalition and the school district for bringing in the tall cop, Jermaine. He's about 6'7". That's why he's called the tall cop. He came in last night to a parent meeting to help drug recognition for parents so they know all the latest trends. And then our school district counselors, admin, were able to get exposed to that too. Myself and Sharma went last year, but went again this year, and it's amazing even the changes within a year. So it's constantly changing. I'd also like to thank Mr. Urbany's class. He helped build the props today with his construction class. And Ms. Irvin, for their art project, they painted the blocks and labeled it. They did a great job. So I definitely want to thank everybody for all they've done. That's our prop that will be coming up in a minute. Awesome. Okay. So actually, if you wouldn't mind back up one slide. Sorry. Now, I have 39 slides that we want to share. So if I did the math, I wanted to not go over 10 minutes. So it's like 15 minutes a slide. So I'm going to go pretty fast, and I'm pretty excited to present. So if you need me to slow down, great. And I'm going to ask if you could save your questions for the end. And because when I presented before, it took a long time because there's a lot of good questions. But anyways, we'll answer those at the end. But one more backup slide. Sorry. So our program's called ASAP. Okay? ASAP. Adolescent Substance Abuse Program. Okay, so it's pretty clear on what that is. You can see our great little little model there. And a little background on the model. John Wooden, UCLA basketball coach, won 10 national championships in 12 years, had what they call a pyramid of success. And it had different building blocks that he said allowed people to be successful people. So we took that same concept and we built our own pyramid of success for students and staying drug-free and being successful. And we came up with 6 blocks. And so that's kind of the reason for the model. You notice the student at the top is success. Okay? That's the visual we want to show you. So one of the primary goals of our school district is to ensure that all students graduate college and career ready. And all the research shows that if you're using substances, you're not going to be able to graduate as easily as if you are clean. 84% of our parents believe drugs are an issue and alcohol on our campus from the last parent climate survey in 2013. 26% of the middle school parents. And then you can see all the statistics from Idaho. And, rates of drug use in a resort community, because we made phone calls to other resort communities, are always higher than the rest of the state or nation. And I'll share with you some of those phone calls we had on the phone in a few minutes. So that's what the data shows. Okay, so here we have our pyramid of success for our students. Okay, and if you wouldn't mind this slide, that'd be great. Sorry, I'm standing up to the coach, teacher, and me. But basically, you'll notice you can see what each of these building blocks for a successful student would be. And you need the support of the parent, the school, the district, counseling, community, and of course the student has to be an important role of that. And you can see the different qualities that those individual building blocks for a drug-free student could contribute. And you'll notice there's a color, so there's 3 different colors, or 3 different blocks here that are green, the student, the parent, and the school. And those, it's kind of like the 3-legged stool. you have to have all three of those in place. And then the other support blocks, counseling, community, and the district. But if any one of these blocks are out, our students are not going to be successful. So whether it was the school not providing the intervention, or a parent not being the parent at home, school district not supporting it, or the student or counseling or community, not a lot of good activities for kids to get involved with, our students won't succeed. So that's kind of a visual of kind of what we wanted to share with you as we get rolling. So the history of the policy, you'll see our drug and substance abuse policy from 2007 up there. And essentially, when a first offender gets caught, what we currently have, if the parent and the student agree to it, they can get their suspension down to 5 days if they agree to go to drug and alcohol counseling. So we hand them the slip, and then they go to a counselor, and they come back with the signature. They do some service hours, and they've been out of school for 5 days. Out of school. And that's created an issue on first offenses because now the student is out of school. And the reason for that was to send a message and also to have a consequence for it. But as we found, just removing them from the school doesn't necessarily, and having them meet with a counselor doesn't always necessarily keep them from a second offense. And so that's kind of why we're here today, to talk about a program to help that. Thanks. So what we know, students with substance abuse issues struggle to graduate from high school, college, and career ready. Often they reoffend again. We've tried to use the alternate setting center. Hasn't been as effective as we'd like. A lot of times it's expensive to get this support with the counseling, and we've heard of families that need to cash in their retirements to help kids to pay for that. And because we're a small valley, there's only limited counseling available in the community. But a big statistic that Dr. Holmes was able to get for us is that of non-graduates from last year in our school district, 20 of the 32 that didn't graduate, we could surmise had a substance abuse issue. So 20 out of the 32 that didn't graduate had either known or we knew but we weren't able to catch them type situation. So that's a significant number that didn't graduate on time. So that's what's led us to this. And Dr. Holmes did an amazing job of starting to build this conversation. We had community partners, and you can see those listed up there that got involved. We got the schools involved, the Alliance and Status Offenders Office, probation. Tried to get a group of private therapists to support it, but it was too complicated and kind of sketchy on who we could get to do that. So then the discussion came back to us, because we're not going to give up, to come up with our own program to support it so that we can get drug and substance abuse issues taken care of. So I think, yes. So some of the challenges that we have, we kind of have a relaxed attitude toward drug and alcohol use here. We, lack of dedicated resources for substance abuse and lack of social emotional. You all can read, so I won't, read the slide. That's like the worst thing you can do. But, there are kids falling through the cracks, and so that's why we've came up with this program. So after doing a lot of research with our teams, we came up with a two-pronged approach because of the root cause analysis. District-wide, we need ongoing preventative and intervention measures and offer more individualized programming to support these students that have issues with illegal substances. And then we needed to have a team to research and provide a draft of an effective and sustainable adolescent substance abuse program. So that's where we're at. Here are my wonderful teammates that agreed when we asked them to participate, they didn't hesitate to say they would do it. And that's a tribute to them. The research. So we started with internet research. The internet's amazing. So we just put out there substance abuse intervention programs, and we just started building pages and pages of possible programs. And we looked at each one based on the issues that we saw often here. And we found that there aren't a lot of great programs. There's lots of different ways of doing it. So then we go, well, let's reach out to some administrators across other resort towns. So called Aspen, and when I spoke with that principal at Aspen High, their school's a lot like ours, but she basically was great on the phone. But it's become an extreme challenge in Aspen with the change of the law. Vail, same thing. Eagle, which is nearby. Jackson Hole, we called. Charlotte called Kent Meridian School District, talked to them. They've had a program for a while. And then we found this site from Susan Kinsler. She's done it for about 16 years. She's a site coordinator at Virginia Beach Schools. And it's called the Substance Abuse Intervention Program. So we didn't necessarily like that word, so we came with ASAP instead of SIAP or SAPE. And so, but she was so warm and welcoming. They were in the midst of all the shutdowns with the climate down there. They had all the snow and stuff, but she said, hey, come visit us. She sent us a package of stuff before we even went to visit. Amazing lady. And so she met us. Our team flew back last week. This is why it's all happened pretty quick. I mean, here are a lot of the resources she sent us. We have the entire program, flash drive with all their stuff. So you'll kind of see this as we roll. So I know I've got 10 minutes and I'm talking too much. Here's some of the literature we've reviewed. We can go to the next one. Some of the programs we looked at, more in depth. What we learned, teen substance abuse issues are significant nationwide. There's many different models out there, and we like this one, Virginia Beach, the best. And you'll see why in a minute. We've taken many drafts through the process, shared with the community partners, with district administration, and now we get to present to you. So, next slide, please. So here's our proposal. Our mission statement, the Blaine County School District Adolescent Substance Abuse Program, ASAP, works to ensure all students graduate college and career ready, protect the health and safety of our school communities through restorative discipline, and educate students about the negative impacts of drug use on adolescent development. So that's the purpose of our program. Some of the goals are listed for you there. We need to provide all kinds of support, both substance abuse support, academic support, social emotional support, family support, and obviously we need to have some kind of plan to reduce reoffenders and have disciplinary means. There needs to be a way to discipline kids when they don't do the right thing. The format, I won't read all that, but essentially it's a 10-day program. So if someone's their first offender, it's a 10-day program. So they'd go to a separate site, not in our building. They would go there, and we'll go through the program in a minute. And they could be referred because the board referred them to us. It could be the school principal did. It could be from another student leader failing a drug test. Could be from a parent or guardian or a self-referral. So these are the ways you can get to us. Next slide. So what are the needs of the program? Those are all listed for you there. And these are some really cool things, and it's hard to read, unfortunately, dang it. But those are the requirements, like you got to attend every day, you got to participate in all the activities, you're going to do your academic work, you got to keep a journal, and then when they first check in, there are family questions, they ask family background, and I'll kind of share that with you in a minute. But there's strict rules, they do drug testing when they're in the program, and there's support. There's parent counseling. They bring in guest speakers. They have to wear uniforms. So their uniform is khaki pants and a white shirt and plain shoes. And the reason being that because a lot of times kids show up to drug interventions with T-shirts that are logos that you may not even know for drug use. So it's a consistent, clean way, and all these students in the program had that on. And so, next slide, please.
Can I just jump in there for a minute? One of the things that was also on that slide is transportation. So students would not be getting themselves to school. They'd either be transported in a small bus by us so that they're not with their other students, or their parents could bring them, but they would have to walk them in and sign them in, because one of the things we want to reduce is the amount of activity in the parking lot.
Personnel we would need is a credentialed teacher to do the academic support, and then also a mental health therapist, certified drug counselor to do the group and individual drug and counseling and education and individual counseling that would go with it. And they would also help write grants to maybe help support the program as well as part of that job description. We wrote job descriptions too for this whole program. Next slide, please. So the daily structure, here's what you're asking. Dan, what is a daily structure? Okay, so it's a 2-week program, and start at 8:30, and you kind of review the agenda of the day, welcome activity, time management. And the first day of the program, a kid comes in, they'd actually bring their parent in with them for about a half hour for the sign-in, welcome, so the parent would actually bring them in. And then you'll see it transitions to academic support and substance abuse education, and there's group and individual counseling and activities, and we even have all the activities to teach each of the content areas that are covered. There's lunch, and then we do a kinesthetic activity, more academic support, and then there are guest speakers and field trips. And one of the things the program did in Virginia Beach is they took the kids to a prison, and they got to see what happens if you get involved with this. And we talked about going down to Snake River and then to their correctional facility, and then afterwards go to CSI. They have a ropes course, challenge course. So then afterwards we'd go to that to work on challenge skills and group building and social emotional piece. So it's not all discipline. There's also building a social emotional piece as well. They also have daily journaling that goes with it, essential questions they answer. Some of the expectations, they got to wear uniforms. They had this big sign, no slouching, no sleeping, no sagging. So that was some of the signs they had up there. Here's a 10-day curriculum that we looked at. So day 1 is check-in, and you'll see that we actually got to sit in and participate in the group. That was really fun. But one of the first things they do at the check-in is, what's your name, what's your background, yada, yada, yada. And then, what brought you here? This is within the group. Tell about your past drug use. So they go through a question. The last question I like is, out of 10 of your friends, how many use drugs? So that was an interesting question they asked at the end. Day 1 is expectations, goals, intake. They talk about tobacco is the topic they cover. Then day 2 is the alcohol. There's actually an online class that they'd have to participate in while they're in this program, and then they print out a certificate at the end as well. So there's some ownership in completing something as well. Then there's a day 3, a process of addiction. Laws and probation can come in. There's healthy habits and activities to go to the challenge course. Now how this works is it's a 10-day rotation. So if a student got caught like on Wednesday high at school, they would actually be out of school for 2 days, Thursday, Friday. And then the Monday, they come in and start the program. So everybody is going to be on the same page on day 1. Okay. Now if it's that next week that someone gets caught, they're going to come in on day 6 and then rotate through the next week to day 1. So everyone will be covering the same content on the same day, and it's worked extremely well for Virginia Beach. So that's the first 5 days. The next 5 days, that would be our topics, and we could change the order based on, after we get the people hired. They get drug tested, because in 2 weeks you'll get to see if their tests show that they have less in their system. So that would be another piece of this, is getting drug tested. At the end, they have an exit essay, and the questions are there for you as well. So they have to reflect on what they've learned and moving forward. Thank you. Okay, their facilities were amazing. Okay, and this is the same kind of setup we would need. So one side, you'll see the academic room. The middle is the middle office. And then the other side is for group and alcohol education. They said it's very important you have comfortable chairs, because they're there for a couple hours. You don't want to have fold-up chairs. So yeah, they'll be slouching. So and we need obviously the technology with the smart board type thing, with computers with the land school on it, so because that's a console that shows if they're actually on task, or you could freeze their computer or say get back on task, so that they're not playing games or doing other things. There's no technology allowed, no cell phones, no iPods, and so the only thing would be is the Chromebook. And I've got to hurry, I know. I promised 10 minutes. Activities. Some of the activities: probation officer visit, jail visit, ropes course challenge. We could snowshoe if there is snow next year. Guest speakers coming, positive guest speakers too. Mr. Wilson from the middle school, he climbed Mount Everest, I believe. We could bring him in. So you could bring in positive speakers too. There's some physical activity built in. And here's a couple pictures we took. The one on the left is a girl's kind of their journey through her life on events that happened and then negative events that happened and when she started using drugs and what happened. And she did that timeline. It was real kind of impressive. And then the other one is was a hands activity that they had, and the fingers are what each classmate said about them, a positive thing, and then the palm is what they thought positive about themselves. So there's all kinds of activities to build the social emotional piece. Transportation, like Dr. Holmes said, we'd provide separate transportation, so there's not on the bus with the other students that aren't in trouble. And so next slide. Meals. They could bring their own meals, or we'd also provide school breakfast like we do at the main high school or middle school. This is a 6-12 program, middle school and high school. Or then we'd bring in lunch for them as well for free and reduced. Parent responsibility. So that's one of our blocks, right? They have to be involved with the program. They need to go for the orientation, and they got to go to at least one of the parent evenings. They do a Tuesday night 2-hour section where the parent comes in, only the parent, not the student, and they talk about the help the parent might need to help their kid be straight. Next slide, please. So here are some of the also curriculum that we found on social emotional piece as well, and drug curriculums. Student leadership and Blaine County Drug Coalition facilitated Project Purple and Chris Herron, Red Ribbon Week. We did a staff training today and parents about drug recognition, and consider offering random drug testing for all student leaders and students involved in extracurricular. Now, this has been going on at Twin Falls since 2003. And so we called down to Twin Falls. Do you mind, next slide, please? Here's our current policy for students that are in an athletic event that get caught. Essentially, if the parent and they go to counseling, et cetera, it can get down to a 14-day suspension from the activity for first offense. With the random drug testing, Supreme Court ruled it's legal for activities or for parking lots if you want a parking permit. Twin Falls has done it since 2003, and they have a complete program, and it's worked extremely well. We don't have to recreate a system. They have it. And essentially what happens when you sign up for school to start the year, if you're going to participate in an extracurricular activity, you sign this form, the parent does, and the student, that acknowledges they would like to be put into the random drug testing program. And essentially, and we could build it, would be the recommendation, that we could build, whether it's 5 boys and 5 girls, or whatever the number is, that would get randomly generated out by a computer program. I mean, it's all dialed in. And not in the school. They use district office. There's a computer program that does it. And then the school contacts the student privately, and they go do the drug testing. If they're caught, then they would be put in this program for 10 days. That would be the consequence. And if they were an athlete or a drama person, it would be like being injured from their team. They could still practice, but they couldn't perform or play in a game for 2 weeks until they've completed successfully the program. And then they're full on, they'd just be sitting on their bench with their civvies on like they were injured. This is an important piece of this as well, because we know that when the research shows that the drug testing necessarily doesn't stop people that are users from using it. It eliminates kids that are on the fence that may or may not. They don't want to do it because they're afraid of getting caught. So it prevents those kids that are in the middle that we get that start using because of peer pressure. It gives them an out, a reason to opt out of it. And so had a great conversation with Mike Federico, the athletic director down there, who said they've done it since 2003. They have not lost kids participating. They had the same number of kids that wanted to participate after they started as they did before, and it has made a big difference. Next slide, please. And so that's the proposal we already jumped through and talked about a little bit. Next slide. They also provide individual and group counseling. They do a journal. The teacher actually responds to the journal prompt from the student. Next slide, please. They do a contract, so when the parent and the student initially get contacted, there's a contract that lines out exactly what they'd have to do in the program to achieve it, success in getting out of the program. And next slide. The curriculum, we have all the curriculum for the drug activities, and there's also another one that could be done campus-wide towards no drug abuse, which was produced by USC. Next slide. So now what happens when someone reoffends? Okay? Here's an interesting stat. You guys like stats. They have about 130 kids, it's a bigger school district, that go through this program a year in Virginia Beach schools. They had 3 or 4, and I spoke with the district office, they call it student leadership, 3 or 4 kids that reoffended out of that 130 or 40 people. Doesn't mean that they stopped using, but they weren't showing up to school with the substance. So that's because they don't know if they're using or not, but they have not had the reoffenders since they started this program. So that's a huge statistic that we saw and learned. But when it does happen, we want to put them back in the program in a different, more intensive, individualized program, and more of a meeting with the counselor one-on-one for another 10 days or more, depending upon what they find out are the issues. And then if there's additional outside professional counseling, then that would be the parent's responsibility. Level 3, now we're back to what we do now, is we refer them to you, and then the board would hear the case. So basically, level 1 and 2 would be handled by the school and ASAP, and then with your information, of course, knowing what's going on. But then you would have them at level 3. Next slide. So when they complete the program, there's a reentry letter that the school is given, and there's a little summary written by the teacher. They get a certificate of completion, not that they're going to want it, but that's then their evidence that they have it done. And then, this is the beautiful part, they have follow-up. So we'd have 30, 60, 90, 6 months and a year follow-up. And then there's also, they've signed for random drug testing. So the counselor could choose to randomly drug test them at any point in that next year. So there is a follow-up. We're not just, sending them back out. And so I think that's the last slide. Now, I ran through that really fast, and I probably missed stuff, and I'm sure you'll have questions, and I'm here to answer those the best I can.
I appreciate the time and effort, and appearances are an amazing, amazing program that we definitely have the need for in our valley. So thank you for researching it and finding it and getting it put together for our district. I'm assuming this is optional, and the parents or students have the chance to opt out, and if so, what are the consequences?
So what this district does is, if they choose not to do this, then they go with the full intent of our policy, which is out of school. It's the same policy, and obviously it's our board policy, so you have a privy to change that. So you do this, or then you follow the intensity of the board policy. And kids want to do this, parents want them to do this, because it's giving them a help instead of, because one of the concerns we hear anytime we send a kid out of school for 5 days, from the teacher, geez, they're going to miss school for 5 days, now they're home having the opportunity to use, and this, they're going to be in school, they're getting the academic support, and they're getting the drug counseling, and so it's a win-win for the kids.
I'll open it up to the board for comments or questions.
How big was the school you took this from, and you had 138 kids in one year?
Right. So
what was their population?
So they have 11 high schools in that area. So it's a lot bigger school district.
So it was a district-wide policy?
Yeah, so the whole district would send their kids there.
Okay.
So do you know what the enrollment was? Because that was one of my
that's
questions.
I
mean, is it like 30,000? Is it 15,000? 25,000?
I would guess it's 50,000.
50,000?
Okay. Because you give our numbers, you look at the size of our school, and you say, okay, 84% of the parents think that their kids are using, then you divide by 84% the population. That's conceivably the population that you could have enrolled in this program. Worst case, right? So I think it's great. I just like, what if the lid blows off and everybody goes, I mean, you're not having that problem totally, but I think that problem does exist. It's a good problem to have in this thing. How would that be facilitated? That's like...
If it got that big?
Yeah, what if it blew up, right? Like, how does that get managed?
The beautiful thing that I've seen about this
They'd be
program...
visiting me for more help.
I just am curious because this worst case.
Right.
From what I understood, too, the beautiful thing about this program is it rotates every 10 days, so it starts over. So unless you have all 84% coming at one time, you got time to manage it.
And when we were there, they had, Sharma, how many boys? They happened to be an all-boys group when we were there. They had, 12? Yeah. Yeah, and they had all kinds of different students. One kid was also in there with counterfeit money as part of, he was caught. I mean, it was a pretty intense situation. And there was another kid that self-referred himself. So, I mean, it...
No, people may be looking for this, right? That's my
And as a
point,
parent,
basically.
I mean, it's a way to get help and support for you.
That's one thing we've struggled with as a board, I know, ever since I've been on the board, is how do we help these kids? We don't just want to kick them out of school. How do we help the kids? That's why we joined the board, is because we care and we want to prepare them for their life. And just pushing them down all the time, that's not helping them. So this is a way to constructively help build them up, get them back on their feet, and be productive members in society.
And you feel going into FTEs would be enough human resource to put at this?
I think to start small, and we could always build to it. I'd hate to overcommit to start.
Right.
We need great people in the program, leading it. And the other important piece I want to back up to is the random drug testing, which I know is another issue that would be a concern. But, we need our leaders of our students and student body to also be the ones stepping up and say, hey, I'm not going to use, as a leader, and this will give them a reason, an excuse to say no. And I think leading by example and also being a vocal leader are important. And so from our students, not just from our staff and our parents, and that'll help those students if they need that reason to opt out.
If I could just add to one piece that's not really clear here, because this is more focused on what are we going to do for the intervention, but there's another committee working on identifying a social emotional curriculum for the high school that would, and mapping it out from 9th grade through 12th grade, that would be an ongoing prevention piece. And they will be before you later this summer or late this spring with a proposal on which curriculum it is that they've selected and would like to purchase, so that our advisory period really has a structured built-in prevention piece as well. And it's not one more thing for the teacher to figure out and try to make up for next week's lesson.
So in your Googling, when you were initially trying to find something out there, how pervasive was this type of program?
This was the only one similar that we found. There were a lot of referred to drug counseling. There was there were some real intense programs where they leave and they go, for weeks at a time. But this seemed like it was the hybrid of what we needed with the academic support, with the drug counseling, with the social emotional, the activities. It seemed like the most doable thing without getting a kid too far behind in school, but still getting the support. And so we didn't find anything like this out there. And the other big resort towns had nothing even close to this. Jermaine, the tall cop that spoke to us, he wants to know what happens. He was real interested, and he travels the country. And so we have a real exciting opportunity with this recommendation to really have a system to help kids.
This seems like pure innovation. Like this is not pervasive at all.
And we're the first group. She said she's had people, Susan, the lady that's so nice to us, she's had people call before about it, but we're the first group to actually want to come visit it. And so we're at the front of this. And as our state gets surrounded by states that are legalizing marijuana use, we'll be
They're even going to do it to the south.
Exactly. So believe
it or not.
Yeah. So we're going to possibly see even a greater increase.
Trustee Schwartz.
So, Michael David, I don't know if you know this information, but I remember this was a year or two ago about random drug testing. It was a bit of a topic on the board. It was really tricky. I couldn't believe the calls that I got and the outrage that I got. So I really didn't pretend to know from then on anything about it. So I looked online and I researched. The little bit of research that I did showed that randomized drug testing of sports athletes did result in a drop during the season, but after the season, things were worse. That's what they said. It was almost like all hell broke loose. And I don't know what the data shows.
Well, our program would be modeled our suggestion, our recommendation would model after Twin Falls. So you'd be included in the random drug testing even out of season. So if you got caught out of season, you would still go into the 10-day program, the HELP program, but you just obviously wouldn't have the suspension from 2 weeks of games or performing. It also is for bands. So if you have a public performance of band, you're out for that same, publicly performing. You're still in the band, you're still practicing, you're still part of the team, but you would be out of performing for those 2 weeks.
I know on the Wellness Committee, Aaron from St. Luke's Mental Health brought it up. We didn't have a chance to go over they were waiting for the board to see the program, and we'll be discussing it at our next meeting. But Aaron, you had the opportunity to present it to the community partners, and Aaron was one of those. And she said it was an absolutely amazing program. She was very excited about it. And I was just curious if there's any other community partners in the room tonight who would like to speak to it.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Please just state your name for the record.
My name is Michael David. Is this on?
Yeah.
For recording. And I'm the executive director of the Blaine County Community Drug Coalition. I want to thank the school district for undertaking this research and Mr. McGee and his team. This is very innovative and very an incredible program. I think the potential for it is there to address the reasons why these young people get into trouble and to prevent recidivism is so key, because if we can catch it at this age, we have a chance of allowing these young people to develop into successful adults and hopefully avoid addiction and dependence issues. So to be able to address it here, all the things I don't want to reiterate, but we are lacking in resources, and when it's often expensive, as Dan McGee said, for these families. This and the existing system, while I understand the attempt to try and get them while they're out of school to get some help, you haven't involved the whole family, and the follow through and our lack of resources in our valley make it real difficult to actually address the reason that they're in this situation in the first place. So this is an incredible opportunity for our community, I think, to address this part of the whole child and to help these young people. So.
All right. Thank you very much. Trustee Graves.
I have a few questions here. I guess the first one, because we were just talking about that, was the sports drug testing program. Did you say that was optional for kids to opt into that program?
No, with Twin Falls, we're recommending the Twin Falls model. That the first day of school, any student, and we have all the science stuff that they use. First day of school, when they register for class, they sign a form that the parent acknowledges that if their kid is going to be involved in an activity, band, choir, they even use clubs, sports, they are signing in to do that. If they choose not to sign in, then at Twin Falls they don't allow them to participate unless they opt into the random drug testing.
So it's drug testing for all kids who are in an
Involved in
activity.
activities, yes.
And it's not just during the season, it's year-round.
Year-round.
So it's year-round.
Yeah. Well, or during the school year. Not
Well,
the
yeah, that's what I
yeah.
mean. Okay.
So if you're a football player, you're tested in May.
Could be.
Well, and it's every week, they random pick the dates to do it. So it might be Monday one week, it might be Wednesday the next week, and those kids are selected privately. There's confidentiality. You get all the laws on confidentiality. Twin Falls actually hired a company to do it. So they actually come in and test the kids, so the school district isn't involved with it. So
I have quite a few questions
Sure.
here. Seems to
Great.
be my night for
Great.
asking questions. So the new the drug and alcohol counselor that would be hired, the new position, how much time would they be at the location? How much time would they? Is that delineated? How much preventive
So the format that they
preventive
use
measures would they be using?
was basically 3 hours in the morning. The drug counselor would actually have the kids working with them on the
Yep.
social, and then the afternoon, if there wasn't a reoffender in there, they could be out in the community. They could be running grants. They could be doing at the elementary schools programs. They could do other interventions with students.
Okay.
And so it would be working full time because you always have work to do with it.
Okay, and then
I would anticipate this first year, that person would be heavily involved in getting the prevention program up and running simultaneously. Because if we don't have a prevention program going at the high school and then work it backwards, we're just feeding this program more and more.
Okay, so, and then right now we have a parapro running the ASC. So the recommendation half of the day is to have a certified full-time teacher.
The Alternative Setting Center right now is run half of the day by a special education teacher who also serves our homebound students and does some of that kind of work. So she would still be available if any of the students in the program have an IEP and need those kinds of services. And then the other half of the day right now we are using a parapro who is from one of the schools that no longer has a technology lab and didn't need that parapro running their technology lab. Right now also the Alternative Setting Center has students from all different kinds of offenses. And we would narrow this down to being kids who have had substance abuse offenses or if we have any kids that we think are a credible threat to being in the school at the time.
Okay, so that was actually my next question. What if a kid is suspended for a violation that's not, so you're saying for drugs, alcohol, or let's say weapons or
if
a
they're
threat,
a credible threat
they
to the
would
school.
come to this program. What would happen to other kids
Well,
who
this
are
would just
suspended?
be for substance abuse.
Right, so what would happen to kids who are suspended for other reasons?
That would be part of the ASC still. This would be a separate program.
So we would have an ASC?
They could still have one at the high school if that's what they want to do. Right now that ASC is used for kids that have missed, have had tardies and then missed their lunch detention all the way to the most severe offenses. And so we need to separate that out.
So we're going to so we'll have another ASC program. So do we still need that half-time teacher, or the half-time parapro? I guess I'm trying to look at staffing.
Runs a similar type program in his middle school and uses his own staff to run it. And so that would be the same expectation at the high school, that if they felt like they needed that for less severe offenses, they would figure out how they want to run it.
Okay, so there wouldn't be any additional hires?
No.
Okay. And is it okay if I keep running with my questions?
Sure. No, feel free.
Okay. Thank you,
Appreciate
Asia.
you coming, Asia.
Do you know, Dan, how many first-time offenders we had at the high school this year?
I'll look to my wingman.
We've got about 7 so far.
7 first-time offenders? And then what about second?
On their second, they come to you,
So we've had
It's 6.
6. Okay.
And what we think are that if we do this program, more teachers might identify a kid and see him in class and let them, because some teachers, they don't want a kid to be out for 5 days from school. So we think this might be another incentive for a staff member to recognize if there's an issue. And with the random drug testing, we could possibly have some more people that get referred as well. And then if there's a program, parents might self-refer people, or so we think we know we'll have more people.
Okay, so then my last question is, so you talk about the third offense, then it comes to us as a board. Would we have the capability of sending them back to this program?
It depends on how you write your policy. Yeah.
Because, it doesn't necessarily mean, oh, we want to expel them, because our goal is to keep kids in school, even if they've, come to school with alcohol 2 times, and then they came high. So would that be, what did they do in the...
Well, they didn't even have a second chance in the Virginia Beach schools. They just put them through their policy of expulsion. So we added that second offender into our program.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't like the second offender in theirs because they felt that it might impact the kids that are in there for the first time. But we like the idea of more of a targeted intervention for the kids for the second offense and really dig down and find out what's going on.
I guess that would be the one big question, and what would happen with that third offense, and what would our options be?
Well, this presentation or this plan obviously has a lot of policy implications to it, so policy would need to be revised. But at this point, this is an intervention plan, and then you guys need to revise your policy to reflect what pieces or parts or the whole thing of this program you are willing to support.
And we would love to get even, we've already had the club discussion tonight, but the non-campus clubs, like the Hockey Association, the Ski Foundation, asking them if they're random drug testing, if they would, let us know, and we could get the kids in there for help too. So, that's those are our kids. So.
And as a reminder, this is a first touch for the board to learn about it, go over it. Please take the time, go through it, ask any questions. Either Gwen Carroll, or actually probably best to funnel the questions through Gwen Carroll, and she'll direct them to Mr. McGee for those answers. And then it'll probably be on our docket again in the April meeting.
Sure. I'm just trying to picture what this would look like if you're a kid. So you're coming in, you're going in. Where would, have we thought even through, like, where would it be? Mm-hmm. What would it look like?
We've talked about using the current site that is for the ASC, and no longer using that for the ASC, but using it for this program. That's part of the reason why we're being very strict about transportation, because it is very close to Wood River High School. We looked around for other facilities. The only thing we see as an option right now is leasing, and we didn't want to go into adding that kind of expense. So kids would either be transported on a bus by us or signed in by their parents. They would not be allowed to drive their car or ride the city bus to get there, those kinds of things. That's why lunch would be served in there. They would not be allowed to leave that area for lunchtime. So we've had some conversations with Mr. Royal about making sure there's a bathroom in there, that there's a microwave, a refrigerator, those kinds of things, and the kinds of additional chairs and tables we would need to have in there that aren't there right now. So. But it would be right there at the community campus where the ASC is now.
And I have never been in the ASC room, sorry. What does that look like?
It's 2 rooms right now, divided by a wall that the top part of it is glass, so you can actually see through it. There is a little space back behind it that is not used right now, so that could easily be captured and incorporated as well. So.
Is there natural light in that room?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I was going to say, I don't think there's any skylights in there.
To me, I don't know why, it just seems to me to be rooms without natural light. I'm just throwing it out there, seem to be grim.
Yeah, and we have other rooms in our district, too, that don't have natural light. I can name them for you, but I won't right now.
Yeah, the tech building has a nice, at any rate, I see this as being symbolic of the way we're looking at this, is what kind of place we're putting.
Trustee Gray.
I forgot to ask, so when the kids are sent over for 2 weeks, are the teachers sending over homework packets
So well, that's what Susan did. She's the teacher and the coordinator. She has an email that she crafts, and she sends it out to the teachers and asks them to send back either, they call it the pony, which is old school mail, or electronically, hopefully we're 21st century, their assignments. And then she kind of takes them and then works with the kids to make sure they have their assignments. Sometimes she has to ask the teachers again to get it to them, but that would be her role as to kind of, keep on the teacher, make sure they have all the information.
And now the last question.
And currently in suspension.
Currently,
Spend for yourself.
Well,
See you when you get back.
The student a lot of times emails the teacher asking for their work. We've been trying to coach the kid through to take ownership. I'm going to be suspended for a day, and then we send a notice out to just the teachers involved that so-and-so's out for a day or 2 or 3 or whatever it is. Please get them their work. So that's how we're doing it right now.
My last question would be the budget for the program.
So,
in your packet,
yeah.
you have, and I know they just flew back
Yeah.
Friday night,
Yeah.
so we need to get this up on the
we didn't get
website
it.
as well.
I mean, I haven't looked at it yet.
You've got a budget there on the back besides the 2 positions. And some of those large dollar amounts would come out of the plant facilities funds. So it's fairly minimal. It's only $21,000 altogether besides those 2 reallocated positions. So.
And those are setup costs, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
all
for
the
the
time you gave
presentation
us. We were excited to present. Thank you again.
Thanks for the time you spent.
Thanks. Our team did a great job.
Yeah, great job, Dan. This
Thank
is
you.
amazing, and
Thank you.
it was a pleasure hearing about it.
I apologize. You bombed me?
All right, we'll move forward with the proposed classified salary changes. Mr. Mike Chatterton.
Okay. Let me start with, I've been with the district for a long time, and I don't think we've ever addressed classified salary schedule, other than the fact when it was initially set up probably 30 years ago. So we felt like, as a district, it's time to look at the classified salary schedule, not only necessarily to add additional costs to it, because that's really not the proposal. It's to put it more in line with what's actually happening with the certified salary schedule as well. So the non-certified salary schedule that you have in front of you is very similar to the certified salary schedule, where the old schedule went out 10 years and then it was just frozen there. The new salary schedule goes out 20 years, just like the certified salary schedule. And the way we set it up was years 1 through 16, there was a 3% step increase, and then years 17 through 20 was a 1%. It would be it's exactly like the certified salary schedule. We also wanted to make sure that we had an incentive program for all of our non-certified staff to become degreed people. So if you have a degree and you're a parent flow in the school district, you would be moved into another column. If you are an administrative assistant and you have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, you're moved into another column. If you're a maintenance worker and you have a journeyman's license, then you're advanced into another column as well. So it's very similar to the certified salary schedule, where we're rewarding employees to getting their degrees. The salary schedule was never designed to have a big cost increase to the school district, and it was never designed to have any type of a financial impact against an employee. So with that being said, when we place employees on this new salary schedule, the employees will be based in the column that they're placed in a lane that would be similar to where they are currently now. So, for example, under the old salary schedule, if they're in lane 10, They may end up in lane 16 based on the hourly rate that they're currently making, or they may end up in lane 7 or 6. Would be similar to where their salary schedule is and their hourly rate is currently. It's not to have any employee that we're looking at give a substantial increase or to penalize anybody. That's really wasn't the intent. Really, the intent was is to design a salary schedule that rewarded employees past the 10th year. Okay. I think that's it. The degrees from the non-certified people is there's a 5% column movement. So if you have a bachelor's degree, you would go across the column. That was 5% designed just like the certified salary schedule is. 3% steps, 5% lanes.
And I think I know the answer to this, but I just want to make sure. So when the union negotiates the certified salary, the same bump up goes for the classified. Is that right?
That's according to board purview.
Okay.
That's been the tradition.
Okay.
The union negotiates for the certified. In the past, the board has treated the classified as a certified because we feel that it takes everybody for the education of the student.
Sure. I just wanted to clarify. That was my understanding.
Mr. Blackman, you had a comment?
Just clarify that a little further to Trustee Schwarber, is that that would just be the COLA raise that's agreed to, so if it's 1.2 or whatever. The teachers have a salary matrix where they can move down for years of experience and over for education, and classified or not. So they would just get the COLA raise. So it'd be like being a teacher at the very bottom, that you couldn't get anything more than that COLA. So after 10 years, they bottom out, and we have employees that have been dedicated to us for 20, 25 years.
As an example, right now, a 1% increase on our non-certified salary schedule costs the district about $75,000. Fringe benefits and salaries. So what this salary schedule will do is, typically when I budget for increases for the non-certified, knowing that there's about 40% of our staff that are at the very bottom of the salary schedule, then I'm assuming that that a 1% increase, there's only going to be 40% or 60% of our staff that's eligible for that full 3%. So what this salary schedule, the new one, will do is all certified or non-certified staff would be eligible for the full 3% every year until you get some of those employees that's been long-term that are hitting that step 20 at the very bottom. So I mean, it will cost us some additional money in the future, but that cost is going to be around $75,000 based on today's dollars, based on the 1%. Because currently we have about same kind of a percentage as we do on the certified, as a non-certified, they're at the bottom of the salary. So about 40% of our non-certified are at the bottom of the salary schedule as well, currently. We did look at what would be the impact to the district if we moved everybody, all non-certified staff, to where they would fall based on their years of experience, and it was approximately $820,000 with all of the salaries and benefits.
Is there any other questions, comments?
Not right now, but I might have some for you later.
Okay, and as a reminder,
I
I believe this is our first touch with this.
Yeah, and I couldn't
look it over,
download it, so.
ask any questions to Dr. Holmes, and we'll get the answers, and we'll be looking at this in the April meeting. So appreciate the time and effort. And as a background, we did offer the Financial Committee to take a look at this, and they thought this was a little too big and too broad for their purview, and so we just had our in-house folks do it, so thank you for that.
Yeah, one more addition. We have been working on this non-certified salary schedule. We started looking at it back in October of last year, so we've been developing this thing for about 6 months and just revisiting and looking at it and revisiting and see to make sure that wasn't going to adversely affect anybody or the district as well.
I appreciate all the work this took, because when we took a look at it on our committee, I think the chairman said it's above our pay grade, and it was way detailed.
All right, thank you very much for that, Mr. Chatterton. And we'll go ahead and move on with the strategic planning, shared educational values, and district mission. And I'd like to thank those diehards from the strategic planning steering committee that have stayed with us.
Stand up. Stand up and get your recognition.
Well, thank you very
Come on, I see you shaking your heads no back there.
The steering committee
They won't
members.
out themselves, huh? Well, you were appointed by the board, so we know who you are. And we have 2 board members who are also serving on that steering committee. So just as a quick review, the committee met on February 19th, looked at the survey data from the first survey, took 2 hours to work through all of the data that came in on shared educational values and come up with some suggestions of how we would take the ideas that rose to the top and put them into some kind of text instead of bullet points. And so that's what you have attached there for your purview tonight, and hopefully your approval on what our shared educational values are. We did not get to the mission statement part, so we'll do that next week. But these shared educational values will help guide us as we're writing action plans. So if our community, for example, talks about the way students learn is by having high expectations and a challenging curriculum that keeps them actively engaged, hands-on, small groups, blah, 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 those are the kinds of things we need to look for as we're looking for action plans, because that's what our community says about how we believe that kids learn. We've also started having conversations about what this data says to us as administrators, both at the district level and at the building level. What does it say to us about our practice? What do our buildings reflect right now? What do our own actions reflect? And so I think this will keep us going for quite some time as we continue to improve our practices to try to reflect the values of our community. So with that, if you have any questions, you have 2 board members that are liaisons to that committee.
Any questions,
No
comments
questions
from the board?
Keep it up.
You guys have done great work.
Thank you very much. And as I said, thank you to the community members who have assisted us.
It's not easy. It's
It's
hard work.
difficult conversations at times, and but it's been a very beneficial experience. One that brings in all the input from the community and kind of meshes it all, melds it all together. So thank you very much. All right. With that, we'll go ahead and move on to the second public comment section of our meeting, and I think now would be the time. Thank you for your patience, Ms. Thayer.
So yes, you have tested my patience a little bit this evening, but I'm happy that I got to hear that great news about our new drug prevention program coming into the school district. I'm really happy to hear that. Tonight I'm here as a representative. Well, let me just start from what I've written down. My name's Penny Thayer. I'm a parent of 3 Wood River High School students, and I'm also a board member from the Wood River Warriors Lacrosse Club. I'd really like to thank you guys for the time that you've taken, as well as the Policy Review Committee on this one particular policy about the building, is it called building use? I forget what it's called. Facilities. Thank you, 901.4. I know it's taken a lot of people a lot of time. Myself, I've spent a lot of time thinking about it. My husband and I are doing the very best we can to raise our kids in this increasingly difficult time. And we firmly, very firmly believe that young people who are actively involved and that feel a part of something are much more likely to have a successful high school experience. We often say that our main parenting technique is just to keep the kids busy. Idle time is trouble time is sort of a known little saying in our house. That's why my husband and I, we volunteer a lot of our time to ensure that youth have something positive to do as much of the day as possible. I think it speaks to what you guys are trying to do as school board members. We're just trying to keep kids actively engaged and so that they can have the full offering of our school that we have here in Blaine County. Currently, and this just is a little bit about that I'm not just an avid lacrosse mom. I'm not a crazy lacrosse mom. Currently, our two daughters, they're both freshmen. They're avid soccer players who play on the Wood River High School soccer team in the fall. They also play on the basketball team for the Wood River High School in the winter. And they also play a second season of Soccer for Sawtooth United in the spring. Our son, who is a senior, has played football for Wood River High School in the fall and also for Wood River Warriors Lacrosse Club in the spring. So they're actively involved, and that's our whole goal. We want our kids involved, and I try to bring in as many other kids as I can find to get them involved. Our family has benefited greatly by the school-sponsored sports, meaning the let me say it right, the IHSAA sports. They have been a great asset to my family. Also, club sports have been a great asset to our family. Also, when my kids were younger, the Blaine County Rec District was a great asset to our family. With that said, in reading the proposed policy revision as I see it now, I'm really concerned that the Blaine County Recreation District, which is an entity that receives financial support through a portion of Blaine County's property tax revenues, is given higher priority over other volunteer-run club sports programs. And I'd like you to think about why is that. And I think, with respect, Dr. Holmes, you may have answered that earlier tonight, that perhaps they are providing some funding towards that maintenance and scheduling of the fields. I'm not an attorney. I think that sounds funny to me, that we have two programs, or we have the Blaine County School District allowing another program to pay for something that is our responsibility. I'm sure it's not malintended. It just doesn't seem quite right to me. So, transitioning from that, just a little lacrosse background. Again, I'm not a crazy lacrosse mom, but this is the facts. Lacrosse is currently the fastest growing youth sport in the United States. Opportunities for scholarships at the college level are increasing rapidly. The Wood River lacrosse team is a member of the Idaho High School Lacrosse League, which currently has 20 varsity teams in the state of Idaho. In the 2014 season, last year, the Wood River Warriors were very competitive with a record of 11 wins and 3 losses. The team represented Wood River in the D2 Conference Championship, and 3 of our players also represented Wood River very well in the All-Star game that was played at the end of the season. Yeah, we're not a Wood River sponsored sport, but out there in the public eye, we are Wood River, and we do take that seriously. And our players and our board and our coaches understand what we're representing. So we're trying to instill that in our kids. The lacrosse season runs from late February through May. There is no second season. Practice is 5 days a week with games on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Our program is solely volunteer run. Our organization is solely volunteer run, and our goal is to provide the opportunity for young people to participate in healthy activity. Again, with the rapid growth of lacrosse, I believe it will be an IHSAA varsity sport in the not-so-distant future. And when that happens, the Wood River Lacrosse program will be well-positioned for success. I'm asking you respectfully to please reconsider the policy as it is currently proposed, because I believe that programs, club programs, specifically club programs that are not funded by tax dollars, that are for middle school students and high school athletes, that is only a one-season sport. That's a mouthful. That is where we land. That group or that club should be placed in the 2nd or 3rd position, not the 5th position. for use of the fields. And again, I appreciate the time. I think it's important to also understand that the Wood River Warriors lacrosse program, our target audience or our target kids are kids that need something to do. That 5th grade through 12th grade, Blaine County Rec District does not offer programming for them. At the high school in the spring, there are 4 sports for kids to participate in: track, baseball, softball, girls and boys, tennis, and golf. There's 800 students just at the high school level. There are not 800 students participating in those 4 sports. We need more for them to do. And lacrosse provides that for kids. So, thank you.
All right, well, thank you for your time. And could you make sure Lori gets a comment on that topic? Thank you so much. Mr. Johnny Galgano.
Thank you, Chairman. I did bring some homework with me. Dave, could you get me back to 901.1 on the screen, please?
I can.
Oh, thank you.
901.1.
So just, hang on, slide over here so I'm out of the way.
He
Yes, ma'am.
needs to talk
So just quickly, a couple of things.
Would you-
Want me to sit down? Okay.
If you don't, if you don't mind, and make sure you use the
grab the
microphone
mic, Johnny.
for
I don't need
the
a
audience.
mic.
No, you need it for home.
It's for the audience at home, not us.
Okay. Just quickly, I had a conversation with Ty Jones, the executive director today of the Idaho High School Athletic Association. As with college sports, Title IX, high school sports. Currently, your baseball team is not recognized by the Idaho High School Athletic Association during districts and playoffs because of Title IX. We have too many boys and not enough girls. Okay? So they don't recognize once they get to district and state. Rest of the time, they're fine. But again, because of that, basically the ratio, all right, you can't necessarily add sports. Now, when you have 20 high schools that have teams of anywhere from 20 to 30 players in the lacrosse program, you need to balance that with 20 to 30 players of a girls program, whatever it is, whether it's lacrosse or some other program, before you're going to recognize that as a state high school athletic association event. With that in mind, and the conversation I had with him as well as his admin, Amanda, who was very helpful, and as well as the fact that so many school districts are looking at budgetary restraints and looking for levies just to run their buildings and repair their walls and do those things. To ask one of those schools to add a program, they're not going to do it. So with that in mind, while I walk this earth, I don't expect to see lacrosse become a state-sponsored school in Idaho. Now, I grew up in Long Island. I've been playing the game since I was in 6th grade. I was a coach here at the high school. I am now an official. I got a game on Saturday because I want to support the sport. In the past, the school district has been great with us. You always give us support. However, with the latest changes in the policy, that's when my radar went up a little bit. So I would love to help. If you need some intel on what I see here and to offer it up to you, I have some. I think that, again, as a single-season sport, for those boys, to say to them that they can have a field in the school that they go to is a priority. We shouldn't basically turn them away and say we're going to put a rec district program or second-season program in the way of a kid who only has one opportunity to practice for his season. I just don't think it's fair and equitable. And I think that's what we need to be. We need to be fair and equitable. And more importantly, when those kids are out on that field, as Penny put out, they're not doing those things that some of us may have done when we weren't being involved in sports. So there's a lot of good that comes from getting those boys on the field. All right? And reading this and seeing some of the things that have been added versus some of the things that have been deleted, I do have concerns. I don't believe, and I had this question with the admin at the Idaho High School Athletic Association. There are no programs that the ISHAA supports below the 9th grade. Now, there is language within here that goes K through 12 and identifying it as an ISHAA. That's false. There is nothing past 9th grade. So what we need to do is clean up this language. I've done some of the heavy lifting. Happy to help. We want to make sure, and again, and I happen to have a conversation because I was, how should I say it, situated next to the assistant superintendent, so he calmed my fears. But again, I'm here, and I figured I sat there long enough in that uncomfortable chair, I would tell you as well. It's imperative that we make sure that these students who are in a club sport or a club activity are recognized and given the same opportunity as a state-sponsored event or a state-sponsored sport. They all contribute, okay, with regards to, I think what program fosters positive school spirit, develops the whole child, creates community culture. Successful IHSAA programs, they all do. It doesn't have to be under that umbrella. And to put that in there basically narrows the focus, because all the kids who participate basically foster school spirit, and they're well-rounded. And it is the whole child, which is your core value. What's really interesting is go to the Idaho High School Athletic Association website, and what they say is that activities is half of the child's education. They don't say their activities are half of the child's education. They say activities. And I think that's the way you have to look at it. It doesn't have to be under that moniker. It has to be broad. And that's all I'm going to take up for your time. I'm going to leave this with Lori, and you can distribute as necessary. If you have questions for me, you know where to find me. I'm not going anywhere.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks,
for your
Johnny.
comment. Appreciate it. Out of courtesy, I'll ask if there's any other public comment at this time. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into the decision portion of our agenda. And we'll go ahead with the consent agenda, which is the consideration of minutes, regular February board meeting, February 10th, 2015, special meeting of the board, February 10th, 2015, consideration of school psychology internship under the direction of Ken Ward for the 2015 school year, application for study travel by student group, Joyce Pratt, Wood River High School Family and Consumer Science teacher, application for study travel by student group, Jeremy Silvis, Wood River Middle School Technology Education teacher, consideration of alternative graduation plans for 3 Blaine County School District students, acceptance of monthly financial reports, payment of bills, consideration of personnel exiting and entering. And would you please read that, Lori?
Yes, under certified staff exiting, we have a retirement effective 8/31/15, Catherine Oliver, elementary teacher, grade 4 at Alturas Elementary. Another retirement effective 8/31/15, Patricia Scherer, elementary teacher, grade 3 at Haley Elementary. And we have a resignation effective 8/31/15, Erin Corwin, math teacher at Wood River Middle School. Under certified staff recommended for hire, and this is a person that has turned from a 1-year leave of absence, and that is Amanda Ewig, elementary teacher, grade 2, Hemingway Elementary. Under administrative staff exiting, we have a resignation effective 3/13/15, Tim Rocco, director of technology in the technology department. We have a resignation 8/31/15 of Pete Jurovich, principal, secondary principal at Wood River High School. Under classified coaching staff, recommending for hire, we have Kim Richards, assistant tennis coach at Wood River High School, and Jamie Hort, assistant tennis coach at Wood River High School. Under certified staff exiting, Oh, wait a minute. That was my before, this is my after. The two people I didn't tell you about, classified coaching staff recommended for hire, I just told you. The rest I already read. Sorry about that.
All right. Do I hear a motion to accept the consent agenda as read?
Second.
I think there's
That goes into the item
oh,
B.
those are other
So
decisions.
that's
Okay,
part of
I'll make that
something else.
motion.
Okay,
Or
so
does
we have
somebody else
a
make it?
motion by Liz,
I'll second it.
by Catherine. Any discussion?
I just want to thank Tim Rocco for his service and being such a positive force in this district and the bigpicture.org, getting that going and being at every meeting and suffering through them. And we're going to miss you.
I will second that. Thank you, Liz. And thank you, Tim. See you around the corner. Oh.
It's on
He's
there.
watching. He's
I
watching.
wasn't even plugged in.
So. All right. Let's see, we have motion, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Consent agenda approved. And now we're on to the consideration of Blaine County School District Draft Policy 206.3, Inventory Records of Fixed Assets. And as you will recall, this came to us, I believe, in the January meeting or last month. I don't recall which one. And we had discussed February, adding the intellectual assets of it as well. It went back to the policy committee, and they decided that it would be best to separate those out into two separate policies. So we have the 206.3 as presented in that February meeting. So do I hear a motion to accept the draft policy of 206.3?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? I'd just like to thank the policy committee for taking a look at that and having the foresight to separate that out into the two separate policies. So, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. And the consideration of recommendation for insurance broker, Mr. Mike Chatterton, business manager.
Okay, here's the memo that I sent to the board earlier. The committee, which was made up between the Blaine County Education Association and the district administration, made the recommendation that we went with Gallagher Benefit Services for the insurance brokerage services. What I want to point out is last year, the current year that we're in right now, we were paying 1.5% of our total premium. And with this program, that percentage is down to 0.9%.
Wow.
So we're saving
With the option
0.6%.
of going to 0.5% if we allowed them to have exclusive rights on selling other insurance policies within their jurisdiction, disabilities and cancer insurance and things like that, that they also do. So we wanted to look at that as well. There was two bids that were very close, the Moreton and Company and the Gallagher Benefits. The Moreton was a flat fee per employee, and the Gallagher was a percentage based on the total premiums. If you looked at this 5 years from now, it would probably have switched and you'd have went with Moreton instead. But under the current guidelines that we looked at as far as the total premiums and looked at in a couple of years, the Gallagher proposal was the best financially, and it also gives us the option to look at if we want to add additional services, we can reduce that rate even farther.
Great.
And actually, they're the current company that we're using right now, so.
Gallagher?
So we're currently paying $108,000, and then we put it out to bid, and we're going to spend $56,000?
Saving of $52,000.
Huh.
Ask and you shall receive.
The extra $22,000.
75,000.
So rebidding things every few years is
is a good
thing
idea.
to do.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and I really want to, thank the Financial Committee and Mike and the BCEA for, look at the savings already. It's great. So that was a really good thing to do.
Yeah, and it does seem that these will cross over. Morton and Gallagher will cross over in the next couple of years, right? So it'll be worth looking at again.
It will, unless we went with Gallagher and the other proposal that they had, where we could reduce it down to .005. And then I don't think it would ever cross over.
Terrific.
All right. Do I hear a motion then to accept the recommendation of Gallagher Benefit Services?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Consideration of Wood River Middle School proposed course changes. Even though this was our first touch today, timing is of the essence. So do I hear a motion to accept the proposed middle school changes?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Consideration of Wood River High School proposed course changes. Do I hear a motion to accept as mentioned in the previous?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And consideration of strategic planning, shared education values, and district mission.
But it's just the values, correct?
Just the
Correct.
values.
Just the
It's not the
values.
district
Good luck
mission.
with that. So,
Scratch
Values.
scratch
Yeah.
that
Correct.
off. Consideration of strategic planning, shared educational values. Do I hear a motion to accept the values as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Appreciate the steering committee sticking around once again. And on to items board deems necessary. I don't know of any. As far as the meeting summation, there's going to be quite a few things that we discussed that we're getting our first touch on tonight that we'll be back for board approval in the next month, such as the ASAP program and a few other things. So with that, we will also be doing our administrative contracts for approval, recommending for rehires in the April board meeting coming up. And is there anything else that the board wishes?
Journey is going to be in the seat.
Correct. Yep, I have that
Okay.
noted
And
under that, and we'll get with Lori about that.
being that there's no student representatives in the room right now, I would like to give them a thank you in May for their service.
Definitely, I think that would be a fabulous idea. So, all right, with that, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Adjourned at 9:01.
9.